What's up, everybody? How's it going today? Good to see you guys here. Here, let me turn off this music real quick. Hold on. Give me just a second. All right. How's everybody doing today? What is up, Pamela? Wicked Blood Middle Queen. How are you, girl? Let's go on up here. Shay Darker, how are you? There you go. That's better. Immortal. I've seen Immortal's comment. Immortal, am I blocked from chat or only live chatter? Shouldn't be blocked at all, Immortal. Not that I know of. Last time I checked, no one was blocked at all from anything. So yeah. What's up, Tommy Cook? How's it going? Megan, how's it going? Megan, always good to see you. Jess, how's it going? What up? How? Hope everyone is having a great day over here. Bon Gypsy, how are you? Troll, how are you? Shay Darker, yo, what's up, bro? Scuba, how are you? Ern, how's it? How are you? Justice, how are you? So yeah, guys, I want to do something a little different than just Kylie Rodney case. I wanted to move on to something a little different than that. So Gabby Petito, we've been talking about Gabby Petito, about going, about doing some stuff about Gabby Petito. So who all's seen the Gabby Petito movie on Lifetime? I watched it, guys, and it was a letdown to me. It was a letdown to me. I'm just gonna say it flat out. It was a letdown. So yes, it does nothing when I push it. Odd don't mean no, Immortal. Yes, no one should be blocked at all. What is up, Barbie? How are you? I agree. This is going to be interesting because didn't follow the case here. I followed this case in TikTok. Well, we're actually going to watch a documentary of the Gabby Petito that's going to tell us the full story, guys. So those who don't know, this is actually going to give us up to date of what we need to know. So yes, longevity. Yes, I agree. Yeah, it was totally weird, guys. It was a weird thing on Lifetime. I think they put it out way too early. So yeah, I think they put it out way too early. It was just totally just weird to me. Yeah, Immortal, a totally letdown. Total letdown. I followed Gabby's case. I did. Yes, I did. I followed quite a bit of it, guys, and still read about it. WFLA did a great job with Gabby Petito. Yes, very much so, Barbie. Very much so. So who we're gonna watch today is actually going to be who is it? The Tragedy of Gabby Petito, the full story. So we're gonna start from the beginning to the end. I think it's like 52 minutes long or something like that, guys. Laugh out loud. Shrimp on the bobby. What is up, Brittany? How's it going? Let's give it a little more time for a little more people to get in here, and we'll get this started, guys. So yeah, you guys, I find the Gabby Petito case really interesting to me. Just really interesting. Why? There's questions. What from the authentication of his notebook that he wrote, to people still say that BriAN is still alive today. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, guys, just like any other case around. So yeah, too early. I agree with also that was the first thought was too early. Yeah, it was way too early. It was way too early to put out a so-called movie about it anyways. So yeah. Pamela, I love Cheech and Chong too. Wicked Blood Metal Queen, better yet. I do too. I think they're awesome. Yes, I love those movies. So yeah, the Gabby Petito case, and she was young, guys. She was young. But I mean, it makes you wonder. Some people says it was over. Some people says it was actually over. He was actually jealous. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff, guys. It's like every other case. We can say it's from one thing, but then another thing comes up. Another thing comes up showing that it may be from that thing. So yeah, it's a very interesting case, guys. Gabby Petito. Anyways, guys, let's go ahead and let's get to the video. Let me put my ears on real quick. And then let's see. What is up, Wide Eyes? How's it going? She and BriAN would probably be alive had the police did their job. What's that? She and BriAN would probably be alive, and the police did their job and arrest her when she admitted to hitting him and jerking the wheel, making the car hit curb right in front of them. Yeah. Guys, there's a lot of debate of this stuff still. Yes, Barbie. Gabby's case did. Yes. It doesn't, guys. Why? Jealousy? See, this is what I continue to say, guys. If we're in an unhappy, what is up, Chelsea? How's it going? If we are in an unhappy relationship, just get out before something happens. You know what I'm saying? Chelsea says, I skipped her. Chelsea says, your name if your name is Brian, I'm going to side eye you. No, my name is not Brian, by the way, guys. My name is not Brian. It is not. She mod excuses for him. She mad excuses for him. I was called in that he hit her. It was called in that. Yeah, on the side of the, yeah. And then she was afraid to say something about it. See how the stories are, guys? This is the kind of case this is, just like the Kylie Ronnie case, guys. Barbie says it was not always that easy. When leaving is when most DV victims get killed. Yeah, 100%. And scared. And that's usually when it happens, yeah. You're right, Barbie. I don't think she could have gotten away from him. I don't think so neither. He seemed pretty sure that he was the only one just going to be with her. You know what I'm saying? What is that? What is up, RHEC? How are you? Easier said than done, the getting out part. Yeah, I know, guys. But hey, look, I'm the type of person, and a lot of people may not be this type, guys. But I'm just giving it my standpoint of, if I was in this position, get out. There's ways to go to the store and leave and never, you know what I'm saying? Go to the cops, do anything like this. But a lot of these people won't let the girlfriends or wives out of their sights, guys, too. So, yes. I don't think she could have gotten away. Hey, Deuces and everyone. Hey, what's up, baby girl? Justice, just Robert said, if people knew relationship was toxic, why didn't people help stop the issue? That's true. And it's also said that the parents knew all this stuff too, guys. It's crazy. What is up, Badass Bandit? How are you? So, yeah. I think both of the mental issues, being along with Van for months, probably took toll on both. Would that be fun, though, guys, is to take off and say, hey, we're going to travel the world? I would absolutely love that. Great question. Victim of DV, it's hard to say. Every situation is different. Yes, very much. Guys, I've seen it. I grew up in a home that was mentally abusive to my mom a lot, guys. And it's disgusting. You know what I'm saying? So I see what you guys are saying. I lived there. I all my life. I left home at 16 years old. Went to East St. Louis at 16. I stayed in East St. Louis for probably 3 years, something like that. Come back home. So yeah, I was out of the house at 16 years old, guys. Barbie girl, I'm still pissed. Brian wasn't arrested and hitting Gabby. Yes, that's what I'm saying, guys. Hey, BareBones and fan, what is up, badass? The cops separate them because most likely the victim doesn't say anything because of worry about what will happen. Them to tell. I grew up in a family high affected with DV. You know what? My mom overdosed at age of 13, guys. Well, I was probably 16. No, I was about 13, 14 years old. And my mom actually overdosed, and I took care of her for probably about 45 minutes, guys. And when the helicopter got there, her heart rate was like a 12. So, yeah, I took her to the bathroom, tried to make her vomit. And yes, I've lived this life, guys, in my home. So, yes, I know what it is because my mom wanted to get out but was afraid to get out. And there was a lot of stuff. So my mom ended up leaving with a note. So, yeah, it's crazy, guys. That is a true story, guys. I haven't really followed the case closely. Yeah. Okay, Sean, this video we're about to watch will get us all caught up on it. His parents is obviously ridiculous. My dad would turn to me and said, good luck. So would mine. So would mine. I remember riding in the car one day, guys, and my dad looked back at me and said, you're not my son. I looked at him. I was probably 14 years old, and I was like, look, I'm a man. I ain't going to cry about it. So, yeah. Shay Darker, sound like they just had issues, did end her. Sound like they had issues. Did he end her? Yes, he did. So, yes, he did. So they say he did. Guys, there's a lot of stuff. We're actually going to watch this though, get a better perspective about the case, guys. For those who don't know about the case, this will actually get you caught up all the way to the end. That would be awesome. Sadly, it become the norm. Marriage, DV, hit son, and guys, look. If you're in a relationship like that, get a camera. Get a camera. Hide it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, guys, look. I have no remorse for a man that hits a woman. None. None whatsoever, guys. Or who beats their child, or who is mentally abusive, guys. That mental abuse is just as bad as physical abuse, guys. So yeah. Jess. We love you too, Jess. Chell says was what I was thinking, Barbie. Nice fill-in. Justice Roberts. It's been years since I saw this case. Yes, and that's the reason why I wanted to bring this case back, guys. This is the whole reason why I want to bring this case back. So anyways, guys, we're actually going to go over this, guys. We're probably going to do this for maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours today. And then tonight we'll be back on. New form of abusive is acceptable. No, baby girl. 100% correct, guys. No form of abuse is acceptable. None. Whether it be to a male or a female or your kids. You know what I'm saying? But they have camera, guys. I keep repeating this. Cameras, audio. Guys, that could save us a lot. I'm just saying. Anyways, guys, I'm going to jump into this video. So let's go ahead and let's get this started. Like I said, this is actually going to catch us up from the first. So yes, I have sped it up a little bit, guys. So yes, Megan Stone says, I'm a survivor of domestic and mental abuse and worse. You heal from physical, but mental stays. Yes. And unfortunately enough, guys, our mental state in this country is we don't have enough hospitals to cover it all. And that's sad, guys. Number one focus should be mental health, guys. I am a survivor and also an idiot for going back into abuse. It happens, Shells. It happens. Just because you go back doesn't make you an idiot, girl. It happens. Yeah, Stone, proud of you. Thanks, Shells. See, we have a support group here, guys. We have a support group here, and that's the reason why I absolutely love my family here, guys, because we have a support group on this channel. We have 4,464 supporters right now of each other. That's crazy. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back into the video. Let's jump into the video.
Police Department. I'll be sure to post any updates as I receive them. There's 720,000 of you. Let's see if we can bring this girl home. A few days later, it was national news, and the rest is history. But that history needs to be told. You can go online and find all sorts of timelines, that misinformation here and there. You can find opinion articles. You can find summaries of the case. But we wanted to really nail down what happened, how it happened, why it happened, and hopefully give everybody a sense of the true story here and the true evil behind what happened to Gabby Petito. And before we get into the timeline of events here, I do want to draw everybody's attention to something that should be next to the video you're watching, a fundraiser tab. We've partnered with the Gabby Petito Foundation and YouTube to make sure it is very easy for you guys to donate to that foundation, which seeks to provide support and resources to both men and women in abusive situations.
That's what I'm talking
The goal
about.
is to ensure that nobody finds themselves in a position where they don't have the resources and the support to seek help. And the sad truth of the matter is there are multiple times during this story when if somebody had just recognized the signs of abuse, it might have been prevented. With all of that said, let's get into the timeline of details here. In June 2021, Gabby Petito and her fiance, BriAN Laurdie, left the Laurdie family home in Northport, Florida.
Guys, I don't know about you guys, but that gave me cold chills, guys. Look, if somebody would just said something, it could have stopped all this. That brings us back to the subject that we just talked about, guys. Never be afraid to say something, guys, because by the time you're ready to say something, you may not be around no more. You know what I'm saying? So which one is the better chance of you saying something and surviving, or you not saying something and not surviving? That's the question, guys. I mean, that's crazy. Anyways, guys, let's get back to the video.
To go on a months-long trip around the United States national parks. They'd been living at the Laurdie home for about a year, but they started their trip by heading north. First, they went to Charleston to visit some of Gabby's relatives, and then they headed further north to New York, to Long Island, where Gabby's family actually lived. They stayed there for a little bit, attended her little brother TJ's graduation, and then headed west toward Colorado so they could start their trip. So they left Long Island at the very beginning of July and arrived in Colorado around the second weekend of July. They made their way through some of the state and national parks there, and then headed up into Utah. and they were in Utah for most of the end of July as well as most of August. Now, as far as anyone knew at the time, Gabby and BriAN were completely in love. Everything was perfect. This was paradise for the two of them. They were off living the life they had dreamed of, and nobody would have suspected that anything was going to happen between the two of them. Now, of course, their families knew that if you're with somebody 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for months on end, you might get a little irritated with them here and there, but that was just going to be some struggles of growing up and being in love. But some of those predictable arguments got a lot worse than anyone knew at the time. You see, on August 12th, a driver passing through Moab, Utah, called the police and described that he had seen a young couple fighting on the sidewalk and that the young man was slapping the young woman. Now, they assumed this was a couple, and they described the van and mentioned that it had Florida plates, and the police were able to rather quickly find the van, pull it over, and question both Petito and Laurdie. Now, they questioned Gabby and BriAN separately, but the story they told does not match the story told by the dispatcher. While the dispatcher had said that BriAN was slapping Gabby and that Gabby was crying, Gabby and BriAN said that Gabby had started the fight, that she had hit BriAN and BriAN had slapped back in defense. Now, if you know anything about domestic abuse, domestic violence, this sounds a lot like the pattern you'll see in abusive relationships. Now, BriAN in the body cam footage looks completely calm and collected. He's fine. He is playing the role of the bigger man who took a slap from his girlfriend, and he understands that she was just emotional and frustrated.
So, tell me what's going on. She just gets worked up sometimes, and I try and really distance myself from her. So, like, I lock the car and I walk away from her. What happened this morning is that she's trying to start up like her own little website blog and everything. So, I give her time. And we really had a nice morning and everything, but she just worked up as we were trying to get going and get our day going because we want to go like arches or something like that. Okay.
Gabby, on the other hand, is sobbing. She is hysterical, extremely emotional. She's talking about how she has OCD, how she has panic attacks, how she started it, and she's so sorry. And, you know, she was frustrated and yelling and slapped BriAN, and then BriAN grabbed her face, and it turned into a fight, and they drove off. But they're very much in love, and she doesn't want anything to happen. She doesn't want anyone being charged. And, of course, BriAN said he didn't want Gabby being charged either.
Quick question. You said you were hitting him in the arm. Did you grab the steering wheel?
No, I didn't.
You did not touch the steering
wheel. But only for like a second, because I just saw the lights come on, and it was more just like you're an idiot. Like, you know.
But did you grab the steering wheel and like swerve or anything like that?
No. I didn't touch the steering wheel at all.
I'm going to go ahead and close this door again. Do you have enough air back here, or do you want me to kick it up some more?
Do you have any water?
I will see if I can find some.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Now, in my opinion, what happened here is probably, and again, this is my opinion, that BriAN, as was typical according to coworkers and other people who knew him, that he was very easily agitated, that he was kind of an outcast, that he was a loner, and he could get frustrated and violent at the slight.
Guys, and let me say something real quick, guys. Just because you are a good-looking girl, just because it doesn't mean that person can't be an abuser. You know what I'm saying? So yes, a lot of people looks at looks and thinks, oh well, she's a good-looking girl. That girl is not capable of doing something like this, guys. Yes, they are. 100%, guys. I mean, look at all these people out there that's actually out there stealing identity thefts, guys. I mean, look at all these people. That is huge in this world, identity theft. Me and my wife is actually in New Mexico. She swiped her card in New Mexico on a machine. And somehow she got $100 stolen off of that machine. So yeah, that is the thing, guys. Identity theft is huge, but it doesn't mean just because you're a good-looking girl that means that you're not capable of abuse. And look, that's coming because my fan base on here is 63% female, which I'm cool with that. I get along with girls better than I do guys anyway. So there you go. What is up, Keeper? I mean, but just because you are a good-looking girl doesn't mean that you are not capable of domestic violence or killing somebody or anything like that, guys. And just because you are a guy who is good-looking doesn't mean that you are, oh God, people's going to take that the wrong way. Anyways, whatever. Just because you're a guy that's good-looking and you go to college and all this other stuff, guys, doesn't mean you're not capable of murder or anything like that neither. So there we go. I mean, look at Brian Kunger, guys. Brian Kohlberger or whatever. Yes, Brian Kohlberger. He has a college degree. He had an office working. And he killed them for, well, hasn't been confirmed yet, but they have him for killing those 4 girls. The 3 girls and 1 guy. So there you go. Just because you have a college degree, guys, doesn't mean that you're not capable of something. So, guys, it's a crazy world out there. I've said last night, this world is disgusting. We live in a disgusting world. Our women and our kids are very important in this world, guys. And that's 100% true. What is up, Wicked Blood Metal Queen? Like Digital Underground says, smack me, I'll smack. Exactly. Yes. Guys, but look, I'm sorry, but these guys out there that says, oh, well, if a woman puts herself in a man's position, then they're going to be beat. Like, no, that's not true. Don't hit a woman. If that's the case, call the cops. That's it. We don't need to be abusing each other. The world's already messed up enough. I mean, we have killers waiting on these bridges for people to kill them. I mean, just because they're chosen, they say. It's crazy, guys. Shelly says, I'm sorry, but any man that hurts a woman is an ass. Shelly, thank you. I appreciate that. Very much so. A man shouldn't put his hands on a woman no matter what. Call the cops. Call the cops. Wicked Blood Man Queen says, are getting snow weekend. Are you really? I'm jealous. I got my windows open, guys, but it's probably 60 degrees outside right now. Truly, I fought back once in 27 days. There you go. Walk away. Don't hit a woman. Yes, walk away. You know what? If your temper is really that bad to hit a woman, then go get help. If your temper is really that bad to believe in YouTube beef, internet beef, then go get help. That's what I'm going to say. It's ridiculous. Keeper says, Jess, don't miss the snow. 30 years. I miss snow, guys. I miss Colorado. Same for a woman. That hurts me too. There you go, Jess. Very much. Go get help. Walk away. Call the cops. But guys, cameras can tell us everything. All you got to do is show the police officer, be like, this is what happened. And we're done. You don't even got to speak. I'm just saying, guys. I believe in cameras. I do. So, yes. I fought back and went to jail 27 days. Yes, that's what I'm saying. But you know what? There's comes points where you got to fight back. Look at the man who kidnaps the women and puts them in all these stuff and, in the basements and stuff. Look at that. You don't think they tried to fight back the whole time? This world's sick, guys. Sick. Anyways, guys, I'm sorry about the difference between, let's see. Barbie says, in Burning Bed, old movie, Scott abused her husband, said movie, first one was too good. Look, abused relationship, which is, yeah, 100%. Just because you're a good-looking person and you go to college and or people knows you as this angel doesn't mean that you're not capable of murder. It doesn't. It's been proven. I'm sorry, difference between a man and a woman physically. Be careful what you wish for. It wants a man that's going to hit back. Be careful what you wish for if you want a man that's going to hit back. Yes, that's what I'm saying. And I get what you're saying. Put your man in a position. Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's saying. Yes. There's no position that a man should be hitting a woman. None. Call the cops. I told you I eat. Oh, Scuba. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get back to the video. If we don't, we're not going to get this done because we're going to talk forever, guys.
His provocation. My opinion is that he got angry with Gabby for something. He slapped her, as was described by the caller to the 911 dispatcher, and then got in the car, got in the van, and said, if anyone pulls us over, if anyone saw this, anything like that, you tell them that you hit me first. You tell them that you started the fight, otherwise I'm going to do something about it. I think that Gabby told the police that very blatant lie about what happened between her and BriAN because she was scared of retribution. Now, of course, had the police been properly trained to detect a domestic abuse situation going on directly in front of them, they might have pursued some sort of charges or at least brought BriAN in for questioning. But instead, they decided to separate the couple for the night, and in the morning, the two will be allowed to carry on with their journey. Now, this is not totally surprising because one of the two responding officers, the rookie having resigned after this, but the elder of the two responding officers, Eric Pratt, is actually now under investigation himself for threatening to hit a woman in the head with a crowbar after their extramarital affair was discovered in 2017. So
I got to respond to this real quick. Shell says being good looking is actually more difficult than people want to believe. Yeah. Because then you have more people wanting to be with you. I see that. And I never had that problem though. So anyways, guys, I see that, Shells. On Raw Reality, I see that. I had to crack that joke, guys, because that kind of like, whoa. I never thought like that. But yes, very true, very true. Anyways, guys, let's get back to the video.
the fact that one of the responding officers is himself being investigated for domestic abuse kind of explains why nobody thought to bring BriAN in for questioning here.
But my ex-wife, I'm just sharing, I know it's a little personal, but help you understand. We would feed off each other's anxiety and spiral. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how much I love her. It may be bad for your soul. The same. I'm not telling you what to do with your life, but if you know you have anxiety, look at the situations you can get in. You know what I mean? And we're not here to be mean to you or anything. Well, you know, there's a first time and then it usually...
Because the abuser recognized another abuser and decided not to interfere. And it doesn't end there. It's suggested that Eric Pratt, when he was police chief in a smaller Utah town, actually abused his position, and that the person accusing him of threatening to basically kill her did not come to police because he was the chief. Regardless of exactly what happened on August 12th, the couple did...
Did he say that police officer had that? Let's go back on that, guys. Did he say that was that police officer?
When he was police chief in a smaller Utah town, actually abused his position, and that the person accusing him of threatening to basically kill her did...
Let's go back. Sorry.
...woman in the head with a crowbar after their extramarital affair was discovered in 2017. So, the fact that one of the responding officers is himself being investigated for domestic abuse kind of explains why nobody thought to bring BriAN in for questioning here.
But my ex-wife, I'm just sharing, I know it's a little personal, but help you understand. We would feed off each other's anxiety and spiral. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how much...
So did he just say that this officer is going through a court himself? Is that what he just said? Shell says it's not really jealousy, though it's more so meaning that like the dealing with certain types of men and women who flat out treat you badly because you are. I've almost been. Wow, be careful, Shells. Sorry, girl. Get targeted. She was obviously covering for him. Yes, dirty cut. Okay, so that's what they said. I just want to make sure it wasn't me actually thinking that myself, guys. My eyes watering. So yeah, that's what I was thinking, guys. So okay, now that we know that, let's go ahead and go. That's the reason why this cop's telling this story.
I loved her. It may be bad for your soul. Just saying. I'm not telling you what to do with your life, but if you know you have anxiety, look at the situations you can get in. You know what I mean? And we're not here to be mean to you or anything. Well, you know, there's a first time and then it usually...
Because the abuser recognized another abuser and decided not to interfere. And it doesn't end there. It's suggested that Eric Pratt, when he was police chief in a smaller Utah town, actually abused his position, and that the person accusing him of threatening to basically kill her did not come to police because he was the chief. Regardless of exactly what happened on August 12th, the couple did continue on their way until August 17th, when BriAN decided that he needed to fly back home to Florida so that he could clear out their storage locker and gather some supplies. Now, the reasoning was they wanted to save money, but last-minute plane tickets from Utah to Florida aren't exactly cheap. And couldn't he have just had somebody else clean out the storage locker? Couldn't he have asked his parents to, or paid a friend? There were about half a dozen different ways to do this that did not involve him randomly spending $1,000 to fly home to Florida. That doesn't make any sense. Either way, BriAN left Gabby with the van and headed back home so that he could clean out his locker and visit with his parents for the week. While BriAN was in Florida, Gabby was still at work. She uploaded the couple's first YouTube video on August 19th, 2021. Now, of course, this video is just highlights. It's them climbing rocks, them eating chocolate, them kissing, talking about how great van life is and how happy they are. But as somebody who does YouTube videos for a living, I can tell you there have been days when I've come and sat down in this studio and I've been in the worst mood of my life, and you cannot tell when that video goes up. I will be cursing at the camera and kicking things and angry and having a terrible time, but what you see on the other side of that lens doesn't reflect that at all. So I can pretty confidently say that if at this point there was any sort of tension, any sort of doubt with Gabby, if she was unhappy about the relationship, she likely would not have displayed that on camera. On August 23rd, BriAN returned to Utah and met up with Gabby so that they could make their trip to Wyoming and then to Yellowstone. Now, they were going to stop through Grand Teton National Park on their way to Yellowstone, and this is where the story might begin to sound very familiar. Now, they did not leave Utah until the next day, August 24th, when Gabby was spotted leaving a hotel in Salt Lake City. This is the last time anyone except BriAN saw Gabby Petito alive. On August 25th, Gabby spoke with her mother over the phone, and all news reports, including interviews with Nicole Schmidt, Gabby's mother, claim that she seemed perfectly happy and fine and excited to be getting on with the next leg of their journey. August 25th, 2021 is also the last time that an image was uploaded to Gabby Petito's Instagram account. On August 27th, another van lifer caught footage just driving through Grand Teton of the Petito van with the back door ajar. You can tell that the door is open even though it's dark inside. You can't really see what's inside. But you can tell very, very clearly that as somebody in the van realizes there's another van approaching, they close the door. So this second channel, Red, White, and Bethune, when they heard about the Gabby Petito story and heard about where she went missing and when she went missing in September, they went back and they reviewed their footage. And what they saw and what they pointed out and what a number of people online have now spent, tons of videos combing through is this footage where you can very plainly see that door close as if somebody doesn't want you to see what's inside. And then the van passes the Petito van and you see a pair of flip-flops or sandals laying on the ground outside the van. And then in the front seat, a lot of people have suggested that you can see a person. You really can't.
So where's these flip-flops and sandals at, guys? Oh, right here. You see it right here. You see one right there. So yeah, flip-flops and sandals. I don't see what they're talking. I see one sandal here, but that's it right there. Anyways, guys, let's go ahead and go on with the video.
Laying on the ground outside the van. And then in the front seat, a lot of people have suggested that you can see a person. You really can't. It looks like there's something sitting on the passenger seat, something small.
You can't see no person there. All right, guys, let's continue.
And then maybe a pillow strapped to the front seat, the driver's seat, which was likely because somebody wanted back support or something like that.
Right.
All we know from the video is that the door was open, somebody saw that second van approach and closed it. And this was between 6 and 6:30 p.m. local time in Grand Teton on August 27th, 2021. At 7:11 p.m. on August 27th, 2021, local time to Grand Teton, Gabby's mother received a text that says something along the lines of, I've decided I want to go solo van lifing and BriAN is okay with it. He's going to go camp out in the woods in a tent. So is this a breakup? We don't know. There's not a ton of information available publicly. So I can't go into detail about what that message meant or what the circumstances were, but I can tell you that it included a laughing emoji. And I've been able to corroborate with appropriate sources that Gabby did not use laughing emojis and did not really use emojis that much at all, especially in serious text messages. So it seems like that text message was not sent by Gabby, and it seems like whoever was in that van that closed the door was trying to hide something. After Gabby was reported missing and BriAN Laurdie was named as a person of interest, a young couple came forward and claimed that on August 29th, they had given BriAN Laurdie a ride. Now, BriAN wanted to be going to Jackson, Wyoming. The couple were going to Jackson Hole, and at some point, this miscommunication happened, and they thought they were going the same place. When BriAN discovered that they, in fact, were headed for Jackson Hole and not Jackson, he got agitated. He became frustrated and demanded they let him out so he could find another ride. But before that happened, when they picked him up in Coulter Bay, Wyoming, he told them how he had been camping out by Snake River near Grand Teton National Park, or part of Grand Teton National Park, thus confirming that the last place he was in fact Grand Teton before he was picked up. Just a day later, on August 30th, Gabby's mother received another text message, and this one definitively was not from Gabby, and here's why. The text message read something along the lines of, can you please tell Stan that I don't have service in Yosemite? We're not getting his calls, the phone's not even ringing, we're just getting voicemails. Now, Stan was Gabby Petito's grandfather, and to her, he was grandpa, not Stan. Furthermore, they were supposed to be in Yellowstone, not Yosemite. Yosemite is in California. Yellowstone is not in California. Furthermore, BriAN appeared back in Florida the next morning before 11 a.m. It is impossible to drive from Yosemite National Park in California to Northport, Florida in under 36 hours. In fact, on Google Maps, it takes about 41 hours. hours. So that text that was sent to Gabby's mom on the 30th was not sent by Gabby. That was sent by BriAN, and BriAN was lying to Gabby's mother by telling her that Gabby was still alive. With BriAN back in Florida from the 1st, we know that there is a time period during which the laundry...
Wow, so they was even lying. He was even lying about where they was at. See, I didn't know that, guys. Some of this stuff is new to me, too. So, yeah. So they lied about... He lied about what park they're at. What national park they're at. Wow. All right. In 2 different states. So not only did that person say they was in, I mean, couldn't they pick like someone parked down the road? But then again, that's to throw off of where they was at too. So that text message is actually to throw off where they was at. Wow. So this started early. This seemed like it was pretty much planned out in a way. So yeah, anyways, guys, let's jump back to the video.
Laundrie family was well aware that BriAN was still there and Gabby was missing, and they chose not to tell anybody. They did not go to police. They did not tell the Petitos. Instead, they took their kids, BriAN and Cassie, on a camping trip about 75 miles from home. Now, Dog the Bounty Hunter would eventually enter the case and start to help looking, and he was the one that actually discovered this camping trip. Most important about this trip, however, is the fact that BriAN is seen on cameras, as well as his mother and his father and his sister, entering this campground at the gate. So we can confirm that the Laundries had BriAN with them at least till the 6th. This is the last time that anyone outside of the Laundrie family would see BriAN. Now, of course, through all this time, Gabby's family has been trying to contact her. They have been trying to figure out where she is, if she's okay, where BriAN is. They've reached out to the Laundrie family, and the Laundrie family has said nothing back. On September 11th, after not hearing from Gabby for about 2 weeks, her mother did report her missing, and the police decided to go to the Laundrie home. Now, when they knocked on the door, they were greeted by Roberta Laundrie, who handed them the card for their attorney and told them to call him. The police said that this is basically where the conversation ended. Wow. Also, on September 11th, 2021, TJ Schmidt, Gabby's little brother, reaches out to me and asks me to spread the story of Gabby's disappearance on TikTok, which I did. With the Laundries unwilling to cooperate, authorities launched a search for Gabby in Grand Teton, her last known location. Now, on September 14th, 2022, the Laundries spoke just long enough to release a statement telling everybody that they would not be saying anything on the advice of counsel. That counsel being Steve Bertolino, an attorney who represents the Laundrie family, but apparently, according to him, does not represent the Laundrie's daughter, Cassie, who later stated that she feels like she has been left out of the loop and that the attorney, Steve Bertolino, is throwing her under the bus as protesters gathered outside of her home demanding answers. So if you're wondering exactly what kind of people the Laundries are, they're the kind of people who let their lawyer blame their daughter for their problems when their son kills somebody. That's the type of people we're dealing with here. The next day, September 15th, the police named BriAN a person of interest. Now, this is ostensibly because he was the last person to see Gabby alive, and while they didn't have any evidence to suggest Gabby was dead, she was missing, and BriAN was the only person who might know where she is. At this point, nobody has seen BriAN since at least the 8th of September, and the Laundries are still refusing to cooperate with police. On September 16th, 2021, the Petitos put out a statement imploring that the Laundrie family help them find Gabby. And their sentiment wasn't even, we want you punished, we want BriAN, in chains. No, what they were asking was, we just want to know where our daughter is. Just tell us.
So 10 days later, this happened. It's from the 6th to the 16th. 10 days later, they went this far. It's crazy. Guys, these cases like this, it makes you wonder, like, I know the cops got to build up a case, but I mean, BriAN's family's just like, here's my card. Call my attorney. And you're talking about the same mom that gave her son a shovel. The same people that told their son to burn every message. It's crazy, guys. Baby girl says, I'd be the first person to turn my child in if they did something like that. Yes, these people are sick, very sick. Our world is sick, guys. Absolute tough love. Yeah, it's called tough love. Instead of handing your son a shovel, I mean, come on now. I'm blown away. Anyways, guys, let's jump back to the video.
plus where she is. And the Laundries just wouldn't. They decided that it was better to keep quiet and allow the Petito family to continue being in pain. But then things changed. On September 17th, after stonewalling the police and shutting them out completely for days, the Laundries requested that the police come to their home because now BriAN was missing. And what they told the cops was that he had gone hiking in a nearby nature preserve and that they hadn't seen him since the 14th. Except, wait, no, it was actually the 13th because they got their wires crossed and didn't remember what day their son disappeared. So authorities launched a search at Carlton Preserve. And this is a wilderness area with about 80 miles of trails where BriAN liked to go hiking and camping, according to the Laundrie family. And according to Roberta Laundrie, that is where her son had gone. That is what he had told them, and she had no reason to believe he was anywhere else. In the effort to find BriAN, who was still not a suspect, but was in fact a person of interest, 50 officers from 5 different agencies and the FBI started combing all over Carlton Preserve. And this search, this team, included bloodhounds and cadaver dogs. And I need you to understand that bloodhounds, as long as they're given the scent, they can track somebody for miles. And cadaver dogs can find a body in up to 30 meters of water or 15 to 30 feet underground, and they can smell bones that are up to 25 years old. So if BriAN's body was in that preserve, or if BriAN was alive in that preserve, they were going to find him. A couple days later, on September 19th, remains were found in Grand Teton that matched the description of Gabby Petito, but pending forensic analysis, the identity was not yet confirmed. On September 20th, police officers armed with a search warrant arrived at the Laundrie house in Northport, Florida. They escorted Christopher and Roberta out and served that search warrant. It took them several hours to do so, during which time they questioned the couple. Now, it's important to note that the people who served the search warrant were the FBI. This was federal police, federal investigators, not local authorities. Came in, took the Laundries out of their home, questioned them, executed the search warrant, and meanwhile, local authorities as well as more FBI agents were out in Carlton Preserve looking for BriAN. The next day, September 21st, the remains from Grand Teton were confirmed to be that of Gabby Petito, and the method of death, the cause of death, was determined to be strangulation.
All right, Jazz, you have a good one, girl, for real. Guys, I'm gonna say goodnight. I'm here in the UK at different time zones. Feel so poorly today. Gonna stay listening to close my eyes. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you, Jess. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you, Jess, for real. Barbie says his dad was an attorney in New York. Their attorney was the old friend of the family and BriAN's dad. Yes, I did hear that. I was thinking there was something else said about that too, but I can't think of what. I'll remember it. Anyways, Tressa says the parents should be in prison. Gabby's death, they were involved in her. Yes. I mean, there's so much stuff said, guys, about this case. Like I said, this is the same thing as, the Kylie Rodney case, or, we got Summer Wells, guys. Summer Wells still has not been found. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that this stuff is happening, that our kids is being just killed and it's being okay. It seems like that, guys. I know, there is bad cops and there's good cops, guys. I mean, it's just plain and simple. There's always will be, and there always has and always will be that. But too much thing leads to too many weird things that leads to actually nothing. It's kind of like a wormhole that we go down, and it makes no sense. And it continues not to make no sense. But sometimes that's people's plans to make it seem like it makes no sense, Feel better, huh? Moral said. Sheila said, one day we will stand before a throne and parents be getting that's coming. Yes, 100%. The most sickening parents I've ever. Yes, Scuba. Thank you so much, fam. Appreciate you all. Thank you, Jess. The dentist that I had dental records was BriAN's uncle. The dentist that had dental. Yes, that's what I was told too. That's what I heard too. Thanks for modding. Yes, appreciate you, Jess. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
With possibility of blunt force trauma. On September 22nd, as a result of the remains being confirmed to be that of Gabby Petito, an arrest warrant was issued for BriAN Laundrie after a federal grand jury, indicted him. But they indicted him on charges of fraud because they, I guess, couldn't tie him directly to the murder. This is also how they got Al Capone. They indicted him for tax evasion, not all the mob stuff. So often the federal government, if they feel like they can't indict somebody for a bigger crime, will go for a smaller, more concrete crime, because that at least allows them to bring that person in and hold them while they search for more evidence of the thing they're actually trying to pin them on. On September 23rd, the Moab Police Department, realizing what was going on here and that they had really screwed up when they failed to hold BriAN Laundrie and question him and potentially save Gabby Petito's life, they launched an investigation into their own department to figure out what happened here. Why did we miss this? On September 25th, sensing that this was probably going to need some outside intervention, Dog the Bounty Hunter got involved and actually did a pretty good job. He located a couple of possibilities for where BriAN might be hiding out, and he's the one, as I mentioned earlier, who actually found out about the Laundrie camping trip in Fort DeSoto. He's the one who found that footage and confirmed that, yeah, the Laundrie family was with BriAN. They went on a camping trip with him 6 days after he returned home in his girlfriend's van with his girlfriend's phone and his girlfriend's wallet without his girlfriend. I can't really think of a good reason to go camping under those circumstances if your plan was not to get away from home in case the police come looking for you. On September 26th, 2021.
So hold on. So he had her wallet and stuff?
Police Department, realizing what was going on here and that they had really screwed up when they failed to hold BriAN Laundrie and question him and potentially save Gabby Petito's life, they launched an investigation into their own department to figure out what happened here. Why did we miss this? On September 25th, sensing that this was probably going to need some outside intervention, Dog the Bounty Hunter got involved and actually did a pretty good job. He located a couple of possibilities for where BriAN might be hiding out, and he's the one, as I mentioned earlier, who actually found out about the Laundrie camping trip in Fort DeSoto. He's the one who found that footage and confirmed that, yeah, the Laundrie family was with BriAN. They went on a camping trip with him 6 days after he returned home in his girlfriend's van with his girlfriend's phone and his girlfriend's wallet without his girlfriend. I can't really think of a good reason to go.
Wow, so he brought back his girlfriend's phone and his girlfriend's wallet, guys. So he brought back the phone, so the phone wouldn't ping to where she's at, for one. And she brought back the wallet. He brought back the wallet because if there was cards in it, then they could trace back to where her cards was last used at. Or ID, someone find an ID identifying her. Here, this is where I found her ID at. She must be close. Wow. That is crazy. And his parents was still just okay with all this, guys. Talk to my attorney. If someone shows up with your phone and your wallet, something's wrong. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Barbie. Yeah, use their debit card. Yeah. Wow. It's crazy. Anyways, guys, let's jump back to the video.
Go camping under those circumstances if your plan was not to get away from home in case the police come looking for you. On September 26th, 2021, Gabby's family, because the Laundries had not told them where the body was and had basically just avoided taking any responsibility for anything at all that happened, the body of Gabby Petito was still in Utah, or Wyoming, sorry, being autopsied, and they were trying to figure out exactly what happened. They were trying to do all of the forensic research that they could, which forced Gabby's family to bury an empty urn. They did not get to bury their daughter. Because Christopher and Roberta Laundrie are cowards at best and absolute evil people at worst, the Petito family could not bury their daughter. And I want that to sink in. And on the off chance that a member of the Laundrie family does see this video, I want you to really think about that. That your son killed a girl, hid her body. You stayed quiet despite knowing all of it. And you forced this family to bury an empty urn instead of their daughter. You took away that moment of closure. They had the possibility, had you guys just owned up to what your bastard of a son did, to say goodbye to their daughter.
It's crazy.
And part of me does hope that the story about what supposedly happened to BriAN is true, because at least then you didn't get to say goodbye either. But unfortunately, I think you're full of shit. On September 28th, 2021, the Petitos held a press conference thanking law enforcement and the thousands.
Wow, guys. So, wow. The whole time, supposedly, even the parents supposedly knew where this happened at. That's the reason why they didn't want to talk to the people, the news crew, the police. Talk to my attorney. Because, see, if they say something, it could be used against them because it's on video. So that's the reason why they said that. And then Gabby's parents had to bury an empty urn. Wow. Guys, that's crazy. Absolutely insane. Guys, there's people out there that doesn't even give a damn about us, guys. Baby says changes their numbers so Gabby's family couldn't contact them. Yeah, that's what. Isn't this crazy, guys? Isn't this crazy that we know all the, and you guys, there's people that thinks BriAN is still in another country, guys. That BriAN did not kill himself. That the notepad that was written by somebody else, or he wrote it and they found it. Guys, there's all kinds of speculations on this case as well. So yes. Anyways, guys, let's get back into the video. That blows me away.
Thousands of people across social media who teamed up to try and find Gabby, to try and find evidence of where BriAN might be, and who, at the very least, brought a little bit of closure because they at least knew what happened to Gabby. At this point, they also announced the creation of the Gabby Petito Foundation, and I'm going to talk about that again at the end of the video, but again, really quickly. The Gabby Petito Foundation is an organization that is dedicated to providing support and resources to both men and women who need help escaping abusive situations. They want to make it so that there is never a situation again where somebody cannot seek help because they don't have the resources or the information. And I think that's a very noble cause, and it is very worthy of your donations. On September 30th, body camera footage from that August 12th encounter with the police is released, and what that body cam footage shows is everything I described from August 12th. Gabby sobbing, BriAN looking cool as a cucumber, and both of them lying to the cops about what happened. Because again, we have the call. We have the 911 call. Both of them were lying. And I believe, it is my firm belief, that the reason that Gabby lied is because she was terrified of what BriAN would do to her if she didn't fib. But despite the fact that she says she started the fight, and she blames herself, and she talks about how she got frustrated about something, and it was her fault, she does give an important piece of information. While she does say that she slapped BriAN first, the important part here is that BriAN was screaming at her, telling her she needed to get out of the car and go take a breather, and when she wouldn't do it, he grabbed her face, dug his nails into her cheek, so much so that it left a cut next to her eye, and shoved her out of the vehicle. Then proceeded to get out of the vehicle and slap her and scream at her again on the sidewalk. I don't know how the hell the police, with that information from Gabby, decided that it was okay to let BriAN walk, that it was okay to let him go home. Because yeah, I don't care. Even if she slapped him once, even if she was screaming at him, the fact that he, being that much larger than her, grabbed her face, shoved her out of the car, and then proceeded to abuse her on the sidewalk in public is unfathomable. That nobody thought, we should arrest this guy. Because the absolute worst thing that could have happened if they arrested him was they had to let him go after 24 hours because they couldn't find anything. That was worst case scenario if we arrest him, is he's a little irritated with us, and maybe we grabbed the wrong guy for something. But they let him go, and he killed somebody. On October 4th, 2021, Cassie Laurdie, BriAN's older sister, tells protesters gathered outside of her home that she doesn't know anything about BriAN's whereabouts, that her family is not talking to her, and that attorney Stephen Bertolino is trying to throw her under the bus. Now, at this point, I would like to award the first annual Lore Lodge World's Slimiest Attorney Award to Stephen Bertolino. And considering what we know about attorneys, that is one hell of an award to win. Congratulations, good sir. You're the worst. Like, the worst. You know the joke about where attorney, what is it? I think it's, Satan has some sort of problem in hell, and he, looks around and he calls and he goes, oh my God, who here is an attorney? And everyone raises their hand. Yeah, Bertolino, you're in the 9th circle. You are in the pit. Like Lucifer is down there flapping his wings on you, my guy. And in case I need to drive that point home anymore, on October 5th, Stephen Bertolino went to the press and told them that he was going to tell them why BriAN came home when he did. Except what he told them about was that trip from the 17th to the 23rd, and then didn't actually elaborate on anything that happened after the 23rd. What the media was expecting, what they thought they were going to get, was an explanation of what happened between September 1st and September 13th. Instead, what they got was some ridiculous story about BriAN needing to come home to close up a storage locker, as if that was in any way relevant to what happened after September 1st, which is what anyone cared about. But no, Bertolino decided not only to waste everyone's time, but then to tell a really weird lie. Like, I just don't get it. But anyway, on October 7th, Chris Laurdie enters the park with the FBI to aid in the search at Myakkahatchee Creek, which is adjacent to Carlton Preserve. Now, Myakkahatchee Creek is the area where BriAN's body would eventually be found. So that is important as we move through the story, and I will recap all of this at the end of the video with my explanations and my reasoning for my theories regarding what happened in this case. On October 12th, 2021, Gabby's cause of death was released to the public as strangulation with the possibility of blunt force trauma. On October 19th, 2021, the Myakkahatchee Creek area reopens to the public. It had been closed since the manhunt for BriAN Laurdie began, and of course the adjacent Carlton Preserve as well. So on October 19th, for the first time in like a month, has been open to the public. The very next day, it's closed again, as the Laurdries are allowed to go in and help look for their son, who they find 1 mile from the entrance to the park, his skeleton fully intact, within 1 hour. So let's go over this again. From September 17th through October 18th, a full month, the FBI, with cadaver dogs, bloodhounds, all of their equipment, all of their technology, at least 50 people searching, could not locate BriAN Laurdie. The park opens for one day, and the very next day, they go in, and the Laurdie family miraculously discovers their son in an area that had previously been beneath 3 feet of water. As I mentioned, a cadaver dog can smell remains up to 25 years old in up to 30 meters of water. But anyway, where they find Brian's remains within the general area, which think of a radius of like 250 feet around the skeleton, they find things like a dry bag, a backpack, a notebook, some animal remains, you know, a bunch of various things. And we'll get into more detail about what exactly they found and where. But point of the matter is, they found Brian fully decomposed in 3 feet of water. Now, bodies take longer to decompose underwater. It had been maybe 5 weeks. There really was a very low likelihood that Brian would decompose that fully. So what happened there? Well, we're getting into that. But first, I want to bring up that part of the scene that was found, they found a handwritten note. This is not the note that contained Brian's confession, but they did find a handwritten note. They also found a hat that read Moab Coffee Roasters, which is the most on-the-nose thing I've ever heard of. Like, you know, these people aren't writers because that's way too obvious. Nobody who's coming up with a good lie would ever be that bad at it. Like, the Moab Coffee Roaster hat, really? Anyway, the next day, October 21st, dental records are sent in, and they confirm with a local dentist, a forensic odontologist, I believe is the term. They confirm that these are Brian Laundrie's teeth, and we'll get into why I'm suspicious about that in a minute too. But they do come to the conclusion that yes, this in fact is the body of Brian Laundrie. You don't really hear much for another month, but on November 23rd, the medical examiner's report is released to the public. The medical examiner concluded that Brian was killed by a self-inflicted gunshot wound around the left temple that exited through the back right of his head, and that the gun used was that snub-nosed revolver that I mentioned before. They also ran a DNA test using some of the bones and confirmed that these matched, that, you know, it was extremely likely that this skeleton was the offspring of Christopher and Roberta Laundrie. I, of course, have not seen any of the actual data. I've just seen the report. Now, I want to circle back to the gunshot wound that allegedly killed Brian. The gun would have been held like this. It was said in the report that it was a slightly angled up gunshot around right here that passed out of the right side of his head. That's important because Brian was right-handed. If you're right-handed, why would you use your left hand to shoot yourself? Why not use your right? This isn't exactly the kind of thing that you want to mess up. This is the kind of thing that if you're going to do it, you want to do it right. Otherwise, you're going to be in a whole hell of a lot of pain for a very long time. So why use his left hand? Something's not adding up here. We also, in the medical examiner's report, get a very detailed account of where everything was found. For example, Brian's remains and backpack were found about 150 to 250 feet from a secondary scene that had animal remains, that handwritten half note that I mentioned, and the Moab hat. And again, the remains were just a mile into the park, and cadaver dogs can smell for several miles at least. You know, this is not the kind of thing where, you know, he was like 18 miles in, there was no way the dogs were going to find him. It was no, he was just a mile in, and he was only under 3 feet of water. Cadaver dogs would have found that body if it was there. Right. Brian's tent, as I mentioned before, was not pitched. Why bring a tent if you don't plan to use it? If he went into that preserve because his plan was to end his life, why did he bring a tent? Doesn't make any sense. Now, one might say, well, maybe he pitched the tent and unpitched the tent, but it seems kind of odd that you would bother to unpitch a tent if your intention was to die. And the dry bag, where I believe his notebook with his confession was found.
Well, I mean, guys, people enter the suicide forest and they pitch tents too, though. So I mean, that I don't believe it. I don't believe that part, because people do go in suicide forest and they know they're going to commit suicide, and some don't, but some do. But they still pitch a tent. They said to make them feel more comfortable at that time. So, and keep their belongings dry for their family and stuff. So I mean, that part, I don't really believe that part, but I mean, you can have a tent and still plan on killing yourself, but maybe he didn't plan on killing himself, or maybe he's not dead, guys. It's crazy though. This is a crazy story. I wasn't aware of, what did Barbie say? Tony Live said that actually searched for Brian. Tony was obsessed with Gabby and Moab girls. Wow, really? That's creepy. He's creepy anyways, guys. I'm just going to say it. He's creepy anyways. I'm sorry. He just is. Anyways, guys. So, in my opinion, he's not dead. Yeah. In my opinion, you just because you have a tent doesn't mean that you are going to put the tent up. Because, like I said, people go in suicide forest all the time, and they commit suicide. And they either put the tent up or they don't. Most do put the tent up, but some of them don't put the tent up, guys. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
Was about 250 feet to the southwest of Brian's body. So all three of these things are kind of spread out. Now, why would they be spread out like that if everything happened?
Okay, hold on. So most of these cases like this, we do hear things being spread out. On mostly like, what is it, the 411? Is that what it is? The missing people, the 411, most of their stuff is spread out. Some of their clothes is off. They're naked. Their shoes are over here. Their shirt's over here, you know, and some of them don't even find the bodies. So, I mean, that isn't that isn't unheard of neither, that things are spread all over the place. So yeah. Anyways, let's get back to the video.
As the confession letter says it did, as the laundries claimed it did. It wouldn't. The bag would not be 250 feet away. The animal remains and the hat and all of that would not be 100 to 250 feet in the other direction. None of this adds up. Now, as I mentioned earlier, BriAN had no...
So why did he have animal feasts? What? What did he say? Let's go back on this, guys.
And the dry bag, where I believe his notebook with his confession was found, was about 250 feet to the southwest of BriAN's body. So all three of these things are kind of spread out. Now, why would they be spread out like that if everything happened as the confession letter says it did, as the laundries claimed it did? It wouldn't.
True.
The bag would not be 250 feet away. The animal remains and the hat and all of that would not be 100 to 250 feet in the other direction. None of this adds up. Now, as I mentioned earlier, BriAN had no soft tissue, and a body cannot decompose that fast underwater. So in order for BriAN to be stripped completely of soft tissue, it must have been animals. But there's a problem with that, because again, the claim was that the area where BriAN was from like the 17th of September to the 18th of October, that area was submerged in 3 feet of water. But according to the medical examiner, the marks on his bones that indicate scavenging and predation match with canines and rodents. So think dogs, coyotes, raccoons, things like that. Dogs, coyotes, raccoons don't hunt underwater. They don't scavenge underwater. But at the same time, there were no signs of predation from a larger predator like an alligator. So alligators didn't rip BriAN apart, and coyotes don't scavenge underwater. So where was all of BriAN's soft tissue? Also in the medical examiner's report, this is kind of tangential, it doesn't really matter, but the tox screen came back negative. He was not on any sort of drugs. But according to the coroner's report itself, BriAN died anywhere between 45 days to 672 days prior to the skeleton being found. But he'd only been missing for 37. So the longest stretch of time during which he could have been dead was still not enough time for his body to decompose to the extent they claimed it was. Furthermore, the coroner's report suggests that the skeleton reflected a 16 to 25-year-old white male standing 5'6" to 6'2". But the raw data suggests that 25 would be the minimum age, and it would be on the upper end almost 35 years. Now, the coroner corrected the data using a new method. He explains that he used the formulas of Mindel, Lovejoy, Mann, Iskan, and Suchet Brooks et al. In most of these cases, and then corrected them, whatever that means. And I'm not throwing credit, like I'm not trying to discredit. I'm just trying to give you all the information that's in the coroner's report, because I don't totally understand why the correction was necessary. Maybe one of you out there is a medical examiner or something like that and can explain to us in the comments what happened here. But basically, all of the other methods for determining the age of the skeleton suggested at least 25 years old. The coroner used someone named Milner's program or formula to correct the data for some reason, and claimed that the body was between 16 and 25. Now, BriAN was 23, 5'8", and obviously white. It is entirely possible that this was legitimate.
Now, what? The body was between 16 and 25, but that's not even... Let's listen to that one more time, guys.
I'm not trying to discredit. I'm just trying to give you all the information that's in the coroner's report, because I don't totally understand why the correction was necessary. Maybe one of you out there is a medical examiner or something like that and can explain to us in the comments what happened here. But basically, all of the other methods for determining the age of the skeleton suggested at least 25 years old. The coroner used someone named Milner's program or formula to correct the data for some reason, and claimed that the body was between 16 and 25. Now, BriAN was 23, 5'8", and obviously white. It is entirely possible that this was legitimate, but I did want to draw out the entire sequence for you so you can understand what's in the report. I highly encourage you to go read it yourself. Now, the first thing that was used to identify BriAN was not his DNA. In fact, it was his dental records. But the dental records used an incomplete sample. They were missing 9 teeth. Furthermore, the antemortem or pre-death records that were sent in for comparison with the skeleton were from a pediatric dentist that BriAN had not seen since he was 17 years old in 2014. Now, why is that important? Well, it's because on the antemortem records, it shows that BriAN's wisdom teeth were impacted. And if you've had your wisdom teeth removed, you know that impacted wisdom teeth are an extremely painful and inconvenient thing to experience. It is hard to chew. It is hard to sleep. It is hard to talk. It hurts. The skeleton that was recovered also had impacted wisdom teeth, which suggests, if this skeleton is BriAN Laurdie, that he was just casually living with an extraordinarily painful medical condition from 2014 all the way until his alleged death in 2021.
Wow.
That is a long time to live with impacted wisdom teeth. Now, impacted wisdom teeth are usually treated by removing them. So the skeleton, if BriAN was known to have impacted wisdom teeth at age 17, that skeleton should not have impacted wisdom teeth. I don't know what happened there, but I cannot imagine a circumstance under which BriAN lived with impacted wisdom teeth for 7 years. That is insane. I mean, maybe. Like, it's possible, but wow, is that unlikely. We don't get any more information until January 21st, 2022, when the FBI released a statement suggesting that the notebook recovered from the dry bag contained some sort of confession from BriAN. but we didn't get to see what that confession was until June 24th, 2022, when Steve Bertolino, the attorney for the Laundrie family, released the confession. And what it is a rambling, incoherent set of lies and falsehoods concocted probably by Bertolino or someone in BriAN's family before this entire thing with him going off into the wilderness even happened. Because BriAN tells a story about how Gabby and he were hiking and she slipped and she fell and hit her head in a creek and she was really cold and he was trying to warm her up all night for hours into the dark of night. Except BriAN killed Gabby on August 27th, 2021. And last we see of either of them on August 27th, 2021, one of them is closing the back door.
Sorry, guys. Let's go back on that, guys.
Removing them. So the skeleton, if BriAN was known to have impact.
Okay, so first off, look, dental records don't lie, guys. I mean, you can do a lot of things, but your teeth will stay around for a long time. So that's the reason why a lot of people falls back on dental records. Huh. So that makes you think, guys, I don't know. This is weird. I've never heard this part of the Gabby Petito, the BriAN Laundrie and Gabby Petito case. I haven't. So this is all new to me as far as I know a lot about it, but not as much as this guy knows, if that makes sense, guys. Barbie says, I haven't seen this before, but this guy is doing a great job. Yeah. And he's very, he's a well-known, he's trustworthy. I read about this guy and he's very trustworthy, guys. Before I put this video up here, I read about him and everybody says 100%. So yeah. Yes, there you go. Mortal. Yeah. I mean, dental records don't lie. Guys, I gotta I have a sound thing coming, guys, a soundboard coming. So yes, I can't wait till I get it, guys. It's crazy. The wisdom teeth, impact, the bones, the body decomposed in that amount of time. 306, or what do you say, 465 days when it's only been 30 some odd days. Everything's not adding up, guys. It's not adding up to say, hey, that is actually BriAN Laundrie's body that was actually found. And like I said, people that actually spread their stuff out, I don't know why they do that for, but they say it's kind of like a perimeter type of thing. Especially if they want their body to be found, they'll spread it out. So that's something like that. But like I said, there's some people that just go up missing and don't even know where they're at, and they're still out there missing, guys. In Washington state, left alone, in Washington, I do believe there is 3,000 cold cases there unsolved. So yeah, that's a lot, guys. Barbie says, laugh out loud, Ride Immortal. See, yeah. What she say? He's very, yes, very much so, guys. Like I said, anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
Impacted wisdom teeth at age 17, that skeleton should not have impacted wisdom teeth. I don't know what happened there, but I cannot imagine a circumstance under which BriAN lived with impacted wisdom teeth for 7 years. That is insane. I mean, maybe, like it's possible, but wow, is that unlikely. We don't get any more information until January 21st, 2022, when the FBI released a statement suggesting that the notebook recovered from the dry bag contained some sort of confession from BriAN. But we didn't get to see what that confession was until June 24th, 2022, when Steve Bertolino, the attorney for the Laundrie family, released the confession. And what it is a rambling, incoherent set of lies and falsehoods concocted probably by Bertolino or someone in BriAN's family before this entire thing with him going off into the wilderness even happened. Because BriAN tells a story about how Gabby and he were hiking and she slipped and she fell and hit her head in a creek and she was really cold and he was trying to warm her up all night for hours into the dark of night. Except BriAN killed Gabby on August 27th, 2021. And last we see of either of them on August 27th, 2021, one of them is closing the back door to their van at 6 to 6:30 p.m. And then that text that is not Gabby is sent at 7:11 p.m. BriAN Laundrie's confession, his account of events, is a lie. It is explicitly not true. And if that is a lie, how much else in that notebook, in that confession, his claim that he was going to kill himself, his characterization of his relationship with Gabby's family, which is also a lie, I can promise you that. I have my sources. BriAN pretends that he and TJ were super close, Gabby's little brother, but TJ does not share that sentiment. BriAN lied, even in his alleged suicide note. Do with that information what you will. There's then another gap that leads us basically to right now. Until November 13th, 2022, there's really no news about the Laundries. They're not in the media that much. There's an active lawsuit going on. People's hands are tied. They can't speak to the media about anything. But the media can speak about them. And Jeopardy did just that when they released a question reading something along the lines of, in 2021, fugitive BriAN Laurdie chose to end his life in the Myakkahatchee Creek area, which is home to these long-toothy critters. Now, the answer was, what is an alligator, or what are alligators? The Laurdie family released a statement through world's scummiest lawyer Steve Bertolino saying, we find this appalling. This is a really disrespectful question. And of course, I think that the response of every rational person in the country was, what's appalling is murdering your girlfriend and then lying about it and then hiding, and then your parents also lying about it and hiding and probably helping you escape the country, or at the very least covering up your whereabouts until you could kill yourself. So I have no sympathy for the Laurdie family about that Jeopardy question. I wish the Jeopardy question had called him a murderer, because that's what he was. Regardless of the Jeopardy question, a few days later on November 17th, the Laurdries and the Petitos reached a settlement for $3 million for the wrongful death of Gabby Petito. Now, the Petito family has stated that this is not about money. This is not about them getting anything out of this. This is about accountability. And I agree with them. I personally think that the Laurdries should be punished. I think that they obstructed justice. I think they lied. I think there are conspiracy charges that could be levied by the federal government. And I really do hope that eventually we get to that point where the information is there and released, and we can all publicly acknowledge what we all know to be true about the Laurdries. Now, I've saved this little bit for the end because I wasn't sure of when the information came out, when it was released. I could find the information about the interviews where the lawyer for the Petito family talked about it, but I could not find information on exactly when this was discovered. But inside the van, investigators discovered a handwritten card from Roberta Laurdie to BriAN Laurdie. And in that card, which was labeled "Burn After Reading," she had written phrases including, "If you go to jail, I'll bake a cake and put a saw in it." She offered to assist BriAN with something and referred to Gabby. Now, there are two possibilities. Well, there's really three.
So if they have that much evidence of the parents being involved, then why aren't they in prison? Is it money? Did they buy their way to stay out of prison? Was this all set up? I mean, the more you think about this whole case, guys, do you really think that BriAN's dead? The more you think about this whole case is the more you think about, well, could he really have fled the country? Dental records is not adding up. The timeline's not adding up. I mean, all kinds of stuff doesn't add up in this case neither. And guys, I wanted to bring you this case because I know we've been talking about Kylie Rodney, but I wanted to bring you guys this case too to show that this same stuff's happening around the world. We're dealing with people that says, hey, that, I mean, we have a notebook that BriAN Laurdie supposedly written. But then we have something showing that the mom told BriAN Laurdie, if you go to prison, that I'll bake a cake and put a saw in it. And this was before we knew BriAN Laurdie was dead, that this was written. So she knew about what BriAN Laurdie did. Because she wouldn't write it after he's gone. Crazy, guys. Barbie says, yep. Immortal says, getting ready to grocery shop still listening. What a great chat. Most likely pay for play. Yeah. I mean, guys, and that's the thing is, I wonder if they actually bought their way out of jail, because why aren't they in jail? She knew that BriAN committed murder. Crazy, guys. Wicked Blood Metal Queen says, give Bear some grapefruits and say, what is up, Wicked Blood Metal Queen? That's a mouthful. Anyways, let's get back to the video.
Possibilities for when this note could have been written and given to BriAN, but there's two that really stick out. I doubt that it was given to him before the trip started. The other two possibilities are that BriAN received that note when he arrived back in Florida on September 1st, or more likely, in my opinion, that note was given to him by his mother without his father's knowledge, probably, considering it said burn after reading. But it seems likely that that note was given to BriAN when he went home on August 17th. And I think, it is my opinion, that BriAN went home on August 17th because he was angry with Gabby, and he was worried that she was going to break up with him, or that something, you know, that he just couldn't deal with being in a relationship with her anymore and he needed space. And I think he went to his mom and told her about these troubles. And I think maybe the narcissistic sociopath that was, or probably in my opinion still is, BriAN Laurdie mentioned that, you know, maybe he could just kill her, just get rid of her. And I think that his mom in that note was tacitly encouraging him to do so. Now again, all of this is my opinion. I'm not stating any of this is fact. This is just my opinion based on the evidence. I think that, you know, BriAN's mom might as well have said, you know, if you need to bury a body, I'll bring a shovel. When she said, again, if you go to jail, I'll bake a cake and put a saw in it. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that she'd help hide a body if she needed to. But again, maybe we'll see in due time. So here's my whole hypothesis about the case with where we stand today. I'm going to break this into a few parts. BriAN's confession is a lie. He claims that Gabby fell, hit her head in a creek, and he spent hours trying to keep her warm, but the video taken half an hour before he sent that text to Gabby's mom shows that they absolutely were not huddled by a fire, as he claimed, that he didn't have Gabby wrapped up in blankets. No, in fact, he did wrap Gabby in blankets so he could throw her body off into the woods, hoping nobody would find it. But in his confession letter, he claimed that this was a tender moment where he was just trying to keep her warm and save her life. But he wasn't. He was hiding her body. In fact, maybe he was hiding her body in that van. Maybe he had just killed her in that van when the door closed. Either way, whatever he wrote in that confession was not true. Furthermore, about that confession issue, there are other versions of it. They found other confession letters that told different stories than the one that was eventually released on some of BriAN's devices. And this is all public information. Now, what specifically those say is not public information yet. I believe Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, I seen that, Barbie. I seen him walking back by with the bag and the camera footage. Yeah, the mom and father of BriAN's. Yeah, that found the dry bag with the confession in it. Yeah, just supposedly. Yeah, and there's also people saying that they actually, and guys, this is just speculations, guys, but there are also people saying that they actually have caught someone that looks nearly to BriAN on like game trail footages and stuff like that too, after the date that he supposedly committed suicide, guys. So yeah, it's crazy, guys. Anyways, let's get back to the video.
Requests have been submitted to get this information, but as it stands right now, we don't know what those other confession letters say. The only people who know are the Petito legal team, the Petitos, the Laurdie legal team, the Laurdries, and the government. So once that information comes out, I think we're gonna get a lot more clarity on what happened here. And it's my opinion that BriAN's lawyer told him to come up with a story. BriAN came up with several. He then forwarded them along to his family and his lawyer, and they picked one that they liked the best. He scribbled it down on a piece of paper, threw it into a dry bag, and then whatever happened, happened. And just to really drive the point home here about BriAN's claim that this was a mercy killing, that Gabby was putting her out of her misery as if he couldn't have tried to drive her to a hospital or, you know, anything else other than killing her. The bones in her neck were broken. He strangled her so hard that he broke her neck. That's not mercy. That is a violent murder by a deranged psychopath. The next step of my hypothesis about what's going on here is that BriAN premeditated his attack to some extent. After their fight on the 12th, BriAN did not waste any time. He flew back just a few days later. He flew to Florida to clean out a storage locker, as if that makes any sense whatsoever. I think they probably did clean out the storage locker, but I think that was some sort of alibi to give him a valid reason to be back in Florida, where I believe he and his mother plotted this murder, or at the very least, plotted how it would go down if it needed to. And as I said, I think this is when he received the burn after reading card from his mother that he probably should have actually burned. Like, it really would be poetic if the way that this story ended was with the law actually coming down on the Laurdries for what I believe they did, and that this note, this burn after reading note, that if it's the key piece of evidence, I couldn't have written a better story. That would be perfect. But furthermore, on the premeditation point, BriAN deliberately misled the Petitos by saying that they didn't have service in Yosemite. Now remember, they were going to Yellowstone, which is definitely not Yosemite. Yosemite is in California. BriAN seems to have had a bit of a brain fart here, or a BriAN fart, you might say. And he gave them the wrong location. Now this tipped people off something was wrong, of course, on August 30th when he sent the text message. But even when he sent that text message, he can't feasibly have been in Yosemite or in Yellowstone, because those places are too far away. He must have been very close to Florida, and he was trying to throw them off the track. Now here's where we move from what is concrete, what is almost certain, in my opinion, into I can't prove this, but something in my gut tells me. And I have reasoning, I just don't have proof. So here we go. BriAN was never in that park. I want to reiterate, cadaver dogs. I did the research, I looked it up. They can find 25-year-old bones in 30 meters of water, 15 to 30 feet underground. They can sniff this from at least a mile away. BriAN was a mile into the park. BriAN was submerged in 3 feet of water, and BriAN had only been dead, allegedly, for 37 days. Why did the cadaver dogs not find him? I mean, essentially, if he was there, the cadaver dogs would have found him, and if he was alive, the bloodhounds would have found him. So what happened? Well, as I mentioned, the park was open to the public on August 19th. The body was discovered on August 20th. So no body on the 18th, park open on the 19th, body discovered on the 20th. Again, in my opinion, the Laurdries went and put all that stuff there on the 19th, or they paid somebody to go put all of that stuff there on the 19th, and that's why a day later, in under an hour, just a mile from the entrance to the park, they were able to miraculously find BriAN's body exactly where Chris had decided to look for it on October 7th. So, is it possible that on October 7th, Chris Chris Laundrie went into the park with the FBI, ostensibly to search for BriAN, but in reality to find a good place where they could put all of these remains and belongings that would ostensibly be where BriAN died. That would be a place that maybe they just missed it. But I don't know. I don't know. It's just an opinion. Just an opinion. Also, if the Laundries don't like my opinions and they think about doing anything funny, I love my life and I would never hurt myself. Just saying. If you're willing to hide that your son killed somebody, I would not put it past you to have somebody killed, in my opinion. And my final most conspiratorial point on this: BriAN's not dead. Oh, what? Oh my God, the DNA evidence. DNA evidence can be faked. Dental records can be faked. People fake their deaths, not all the time, but enough times that it's not out of the realm of possibility that they found a way to fake this. Now, again, I saw the coroner's report. I did not see the raw data. I was not there for the process where they actually ran the DNA analysis. For all I know, somebody could have paid somebody off. But again, like I said, I can't prove that. It's just this feeling that I had in my gut that something is not right here, that something is being obfuscated. But if BriAN's alive, he can't be in the US. He would get found. True crime is one of the biggest topics in podcasting, TV, YouTube, all of that. People would recognize him immediately. So he can't be in the US. And he also can't be anywhere that has an extradition treaty with the US, and especially not in the Anglosphere. Because if he's in the Anglosphere, somebody's going to recognize him. They'll know. They have English-speaking news. This was not just national news. This did make it overseas. So wherever he went, we're looking at some place that doesn't have an extradition treaty with the US or has been inconsistent about extradition. We're looking at a sizable white population so that he could blend in. And we're looking at English being common enough in major cities that he would not be completely out of his depth and unable to communicate. He needs to be somewhere where he has time to learn the local language. So I put together some possible locations for you. Here are countries that fit all three of those factors: Cyprus, Iceland, Switzerland, Montenegro, Moldova, Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and Cuba. Now, there are certain South American countries that are inconsistent as well, but like I said, I'm looking primarily at a few factors here. But I wouldn't cross South America off the map. It's just all of them have extradition treaties. So if any of them were looking to score brownie points with the US, it would be a really easy way to do it, to just hand BriAN Laundrie over to them. So I don't think he'd go to South America. Cuba, on the other hand, does not like us. And also, of course, on that list, I did list a couple of places that do have extradition treaties, for example, Iceland and Switzerland. But Iceland and Switzerland do not reliably extradite to the United States, and even Greece doesn't. Like, they do extradite, but...
Guys, excuse me, I agree with him 100%. If the mom says, hey, if you go to prison, I'll bake a cake for you with a Saul in it. Meaning, I'll help kill you, basically, is what that... These are speculations, guys. This is my opinion, which helps. That's what practically what that says to you. So, if she offered to give... If she wrote that to him, she offered to give him a shovel and everything else, and then it then proves that they knew about it because of that thing that was written to BriAN about the cake with Saul in it. She knew that his girlfriend was no longer alive, which, talking about Gabby, was no longer alive. Then I wouldn't put it past the family, the mom and the dad, to actually have BriAN killed. At that point, BriAN knows too much, guys. So the only way to actually make sure that nothing happens is to actually get rid of him. That makes 100%. That's 100% to me. That makes perfect sense. But then again, so does leaving the country, guys. I don't believe, after hearing this stuff, after reading about this last night, guys, and everything else, in my opinion, I don't think BriAN is dead. I don't. Dental records don't match. The cadaver dog thing, the theories, just speculations, guys. I mean, he shows up with Gabby Petito's phone and wallet. The mom already knows this, guys. That the mom already knows that the girlfriend is dead. She writes a letter saying, or a postcard saying, basically, if you go to prison, I'll bake you a cake with a Saul in it. Blows my mind, guys. Absolutely blows my mind. Anyways, let's go to some comments. Bobby says, woman, change that. Bobby, that's not you. His mom is a witch. I can totally see my young self in Gabby. I'm lucky have escaped. Very good, Shelly. Maybe mom meant she would anything to get BriAN out of jail. Maybe, and that's a possibility too, Barb. 100% possibility. So yeah, I mean, crazy, guys. And like I said, I wanted to show you guys this because we talked about Kylie Rodney case, guys. There's a lot of cases like this. Anyways, guys, let's jump back to the video.
Not in all cases. So there's a number of places he could have gone. Places with 2 of those factors: no extradition, white population, English common. Anything ending in stan except for Pakistan. Literally all of the Soviet former satellite states that end in stan, those all are on the table. Arab states other than Jordan and Egypt, which both have extradition treaties with the United States, Armenia, Georgia, and Iran. I will admit I was a little surprised that Armenia did not have an extradition treaty with the US. And places that have just one of those factors: China, most of Africa, Indonesia, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and North Korea. Those all seem very unlikely. So my top picks here, I'm looking at Cyprus because it has a considerable white English-speaking population, about 25%, and a very low cost of living. It is about a quarter less expensive to live in Cyprus than it is in the US. Russia, which is a very common location for American refugees. Only about 11% of Russians actually speak English, but you could figure it out if you really needed to. You could get around. You can always use Google Translate, software like that. So that's also a possibility. That's where Snowden is. You know, it would be an option. And then Switzerland and Iceland are both also on the table. And I picked those because while they do have extradition treaties, neither of them are like super buddy-buddy with us. And finding BriAN Laurdie, picking that guy out of a crowd in Switzerland or Iceland would be really difficult. He's a 5'8" tall white guy. Like, he's the main demographic of both of those places. So I don't know. I don't see it being likely that he went to the 1 or 2 factor places. Again, it's possible, but unless he went to Eastern Europe, I really think Cyprus, Iceland, and Switzerland are the top choices here. Maybe Montenegro. So those are my thoughts. But if anybody is watching from any of those countries and you happen to see a guy that looks like BriAN Laurdie, contact authorities or contact me and I can contact the right people. Now, as we're getting to the end of this video, I do want to reemphasize that everything I said here was my opinion based on the research I have done. Now, of course, there are things that are factual in here. I did tell you when things are my opinion. So anything that is not a simple factual statement that you watched and saw and heard in this video is my opinion. But I back that opinion up with evidence. And I'm not going to make any claims here. I don't want to defame anybody. But based on what I've seen, it seems very unlikely to me that the Laurdries actually didn't know anything, that they didn't hide BriAN, all of that. And at the end of the day, what I really care about here is justice. I want whoever is responsible for this to face it. I want them to admit it. I'm sick and tired of people getting away with things like this just because they can. And the best thing that you can do is to help donate to the Gabby Petito Foundation. There's a fundraiser for it attached to this video.
There you guys go. Look, guys, it's a crazy thing. I mean, I don't know, guys. Like I said, all speculations at this point is I believe that BriAN is not dead. And if he is dead, then somebody had him killed. That's what I believe. So yeah, that's just my belief, and I'll stick to that. And those are all speculations, guys. Anyways, let's go back to comments. Probably that's not. Barbara says maybe a moment. That's very well. Damn. He's a mommy's boy. Yes. Ukraine. There you go, guys. And this guy even looked up countries and surrounding states of, crazy. This video was a great video, guys. 100% a great video. So yeah. So what another video I have, guys, I have a video right here. We'll watch some of this video and then we'll finish the rest. So let's just let's do this, guys. Let's go ahead and go. This is actually about Gabby Petito as well. So yes, the Coffee and Crime time, BriAN Laurdie and his confession. So this is actually the confession part of this whole thing. So yeah. Anyways, guys, let's go ahead and go on with this. We're gonna, like I said, we may actually split this in 2 pieces and cover the rest of this tonight as well. I'm not for sure what we're gonna do tonight. But anyways, guys, let's get back to the video.
Actually recording this video on September 6th. So it's the first week of September, and it was just about a year ago today.
Let's speed this up, guys.
That Gabby Petito became a household name across the United States and even the world. Now, what happened in this case is pretty well known, and I've discussed it in depth in a previous video, which I'll link below. Derek and I actually went over Gabby's case pretty much in depth on Crime Weekly. I'll link that below as well, but I will also give a quick recap for those of you who need it. Gabby Petito was a 22-year-old woman who was reported missing on September 11th, 2021, after her boyfriend, 24-year-old BriAN Laurdie, returned home to Northport, Florida from their desert road trip without her on September 1st. Now, BriAN, he didn't report Gabby missing. He didn't contact her family and let them know that he was worried or let them know what was going on. In fact, he ignored
Bye,
calls
Mortal.
and texts from Gabby's parents, and he refused to speak to them, and he refused to speak to the police. He refused to tell the police what happened, where he'd seen Gabby last, where she was. He wouldn't tell anybody anything. A few weeks after returning to Florida and hiding from the police and the public and everyone, BriAN Laurdie allegedly went hiking in the nearby Carlton Reserve, and he never returned home. When the FBI issued an arrest warrant for BriAN Laurdie on September 24th, it was revealed that his whereabouts had been unknown since on or around September 17th. On September 19th, the FBI found human remains in the Bridger-Teton National Forest located in western Wyoming, and those remains were later confirmed to be the remains of Gabby Petito. A coroner determined that Gabby had died from strangulation and also blunt force trauma to her head and her neck, and her body had been out in the wilderness for 3 to 4 weeks before authorities discovered it. For a month, the authorities searched for BriAN Laurdie, who at this point, obviously is a person of interest, suspect number one in what happened to Gabby Petito. And on October 21st, it was announced that partial human remains belonging to BriAN had been found in the Carlton Nature Reserve. A month later, BriAN's cause of death was revealed as being a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. In January of 2022, the authorities revealed that BriAN Laurdie had confessed to killing his girlfriend, Gabby Petito, in a small notebook that had been found by his body. And they also had evidence that BriAN had been sending text messages in an intentional attempt to lead people to believe that Gabby was still alive after he had killed her. And so there's a lot of talk about this notebook and other items found near BriAN Laurdie's remains. In the news, on social media, we all were wondering, what was written in that notebook? What kind of things did BriAN bring with him into the swampy Carlton Reserve, where he knew, apparently, that he was going to take his own life? And had he truly confessed to killing his girlfriend in cold blood? We didn't have the accurate answers until the end of June 2022, when Stephen Bertolino, who's the attorney for the Laurdie family and who was BriAN's attorney when BriAN was still alive, he released 8 pages of the notebook. And since this release, I've asked myself, Stephanie, why did he do this? Why did Stephen Bertolino release these notebook pages? Now, Gabby's parents had already filed a civil lawsuit against Chris and Roberta Laurdie the previous March. And like I said, this lawsuit claims the Laurdries know far more than they've admitted to knowing. And I want to say, if you live in Florida and you need a good defense attorney, Stephen Bertolino is your guy, man, because since day one, he's been riding hard for BriAN, for Chris, and for Roberta, doing the very most to dilute any bad publicity and to portray the Laurdie family as victims in this situation. Victims almost equal to that of Gabby's parents. And listen, from what I can gather, Stephen Bertolino has known the Laurdie family for a long time. I think in one interview, he said 15 to 20 years. So he probably pretty much watched BriAN grow up. So there's some sort of connection here. There's some sort of deeper emotional connection between Stephen Bertolino and the Laurdries. And when we talk about the lawsuit, I'm going to talk about why I think that's a bad idea, to represent clients when you are close friends with them. But I still can't understand, why did he release these notebook pages, right? When the FBI released BriAN and Gabby's personal items, Gabby's stuff went to her family and BriAN's stuff went to his family. And that included the notebook, which had been submerged underwater for weeks in a dry bag, and which apparently Chris and Roberta Laurdie were very eager to get their hands on from the moment it was discovered. They were trying to get this notebook hard. When Bertolino released the notebook pages, he said, quote, "As part of the return of property in FBI custody, I was given BriAN's notebook. I would like to share with the public the note that the FBI alluded to on January 21st, 2022, that BriAN claimed responsibility for the death of Gabby Petito," end quote. So I think that Bertolino is sort of trying to say that the pages he released were going to make BriAN look better, and that it wasn't as simple and cut and dry as the FBI had made it seem. And although BriAN was in a way responsible for Gabby's death, what he had done was out of love and mercy. Is that what Stephen Bertolino was releasing those pages for? Is that what he wanted us to feel when we read those pages? Why else did he release them? He didn't have to. I can't imagine why else the Laurdries and Stephen Bertolino would have decided to make these pages public unless they felt that what was in that notebook, what was in those 8 pages, made BriAN look better somehow. I just don't know. It's beyond me, because in my opinion, these 8 pages, what was written on these 8 notebook pages, they do not make BriAN look better at all. I don't know what could possibly make BriAN Laurdie look better. The only thing that could make BriAN Laurdie look better is if you came out and said, oh, the whole time you've been thinking this guy's BriAN Laurdie. It's not. It's his evil twin, Tom Laurdie. BriAN Laurdie's been locked up in a storage shed, and we've released him now. And here's the real BriAN Laurdie, who's completely innocent and has done nothing wrong to no one ever. And he's been locked in a storage shed for the past 2 years. That's the only way. The only thing that could be, redeeming to BriAN Laurdie, in my opinion, at this point. So let's read what he wrote, and I'll discuss my opinion and what I think as we go along, because honestly, I'm just disgusted by the whole thing. And it's one thing for me to know that he killed her because, you know, I think we all knew that for a long time. We knew BriAN Laurdie killed Gabby Petito. But to now see in front of us that BriAN was trying to rewrite history and create his own narrative where he somehow comes out looking like a hero or something, where he talks about Gabby's last moments of life in such great and, in my opinion, fabricated detail, it's the epitome of adding insult to injury. So let's just read it. So BriAN has sort of formatted his writing in this notebook as a letter to Gabby, even though we see pretty shortly in it's not that. You know, this letter was clearly, in my opinion, written to be viewed by everyone, which is why he put it in a dry bag before he took himself out, right? He wanted to make sure that although he wasn't going to survive, his bullshit narrative and narcissistic justifications and excuses would. He starts by writing, quote, "Gabby, I wish I was right at your side. I wish I could be talking to you right now. I'd be going through every memory we've made, getting even more excited for the future. I can't live without you. I've lost every day we could have spent together, every holiday. I'll never get to play with blank again." It's unclear what that word is, but it looks like it's somebody's name. "Never go hiking with TJ. I loved you more than anything. I can't bear to look at our photos, to recall great times, because it's why I cannot go on. When I close my eyes, I will think of laying on the roof of the van, falling asleep to the sights of a meteor shower at the Crystal Geyser. I will always love you." End quote. So that's just part of it. We're not done, not by far. I just want to clarify, TJ is Gabby's brother. And like I said, there was another name in there, but you can't make it out. And the reference to the meteor shower at the Crystal Geyser, it looks like it's a place in Utah where Gabby and BriAN actually traveled during their road trip. So this is where he sort of stops talking to Gabby and starts sort of talking about her, as if he's trying to show the reader how they would feel if they knew Gabby, if they loved her, and then if they had lost her. He's not a great writer. He doesn't know how to use punctuation. He doesn't know how to format a sentence. So I'm pretty sure that's what he's trying to do at this point, but let me know what you think. So he says, quote, "If you were reading Gab's journal, looking at the photos from our life together, flipping through old cards, you wouldn't want to live a day without her. Knowing that every day you'll wake up without her, you wouldn't want to wake up. I'm sorry to everyone this will affect. Gabby was the love of my life, but I know adored by many. I'm so very sorry to her family because I love them. I'd consider her younger siblings my best friends. I'm so sorry for my family. This is a shock to them as well as a terrible grief. They loved as much, if not more than me. A new daughter to my mother, an aunt to my niece. Please do not make this harder for them. This occurred as an unexpected tragedy." Okay, so I'm going to pause here because, like I said, BriAN's not a good writer, and maybe this is purposeful. He's all over the place. He's sort of talking in this nostalgic way, like, if you knew Gabby and you lost her, you wouldn't want to live without her either. And then he starts talking about how Gabby was loved and how he loves her family. And then he goes back to how Gabby was loved, but this time how Gabby was loved by his family. So he's bouncing around a bit, but he says he knows his family loved Gabby a lot, maybe even more than he loved her.
Well, it's unfortunate. We already know that she wasn't really loved that much by his family. I mean, whenever the cops went there, his mom, BriAN's mom and dad handed him a card and said, "Talk to my attorneys." They already knew what was coming. Anyways, guys, let's get back to the video.
And that was an odd statement to me, right? BriAN claimed that Gabby was the love of his life, the most important person in the world to him, the most amazing girl to have ever walked the face of the earth. And he loved her so much that he could not bear to continue living without her. But he also says that his family maybe loved her even more than he loved her, which is odd. I mean, you want your family to love your partner, obviously, but it's probably not a great sign, not an encouraging sign if they love her more than you do. And to me, that statement is very telling. BriAN is trying to paint himself in a very positive light here. He's trying to show us all that he loved Gabby very much, that he would never hurt her if he didn't absolutely have to. But in my opinion, from what I know about BriAN and his relationship with Gabby, from what others have said, from relationships I've seen that are similar to Gabby and BriAN's relationship, I think he had a lot of resentment towards Gabby. I think he did love her. At least he thought that what he was feeling was love. This very intense feeling that he was feeling for Gabby, he thought it was love, because I'm sure at his age and his emotional maturity level, which was very immature, I'm sure he hadn't yet experienced true and adult love. But I think there was a lot of resentment there as well, because everyone did love Gabby, right? She was this tiny, cute, bubbly little girl with these big dreams, this vibrant personality. She had plans. She wanted to do things. She worked towards them. She wanted to reach her dreams. And even her mom said, you know, everyone was kind of jealous of Gabby because everybody has dreams and everybody says they're going to do this and they're going to do that. But Gabby actually did it. She was a little spitfire. She was brave. There wasn't much to not like about Gabby Petito, from what we can tell. And it's very likely that BriAN's family and friends fell under her spell. And maybe they would say things jokingly to BriAN, like, you know, what's she doing with you? Or, oh, you outkicked your coverage with this one, you know, like she's too good for you. Just like jokes, you know, that a normal person with a normal self-esteem would recognize as jokes. But to BriAN, who, in my opinion, had very little self-worth, they didn't feel lighthearted. They didn't feel like lighthearted jokes because...
So kind of like the opposite attracts, I guess, is what she's saying.
they echoed what he was already feeling inside, that Gabby was maybe too good for him, that she would maybe realize this one day, or someone would come along that she had more in common with, or who was better looking than BriAN, or smarter than BriAN, or more outgoing than BriAN, or less of a douchebag than BriAN, and Gabby would leave him for this other person. She would realize that there was somebody better out there for her, and that's why he was controlling and jealous, and he kind of tried to keep her to himself, because if you never let her out into the wilderness to see what else is out there, then you can kind of keep her in this little gilded cage. If you don't let her fly out and see what else is out there, you can keep her all to yourself. And I think that's really what.
And that's what we touched base on too, guys, was that these type of guys do that. They keep you at a very short leash. They don't actually, let you adventure out there because they're afraid. And a lot of these people like this won't even let their girl get a job. I mean, that is 100% facts. There is people out there like that keeps their wife at home, cooking, cleaning, go to the store with her, and don't even let her have her own time because they're afraid of their wife or their girlfriend to find another person that's better than that guy is. It's not letting them have a life. It's facts. Anyways, guys, let's jump back to the video.
Was a catalyst to a lot of their arguments. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, I don't know for sure. None of us know. None of us know what they even argued about. None of us know what, issues they had that continued popping up. I would say that even the people closest to Gabby, like her friends and her family, they probably know a lot more than we do, but they probably still don't know everything. So at the end of that last sentence that we read that BriAN wrote, BriAN transitioned into talking about the terrible and unexpected tragedy that ended with Gabby losing her life. And he continues on saying, quote, "Rushing back to our car, trying to cross the streams of Spread Creek before it got too dark to see, too cold. I hear a splash and a scream. I could barely see. I couldn't find her for a moment. Shouted her name. I found her breathing heavily, gasping my name. She was freezing cold. We had just come from the blazing hot national parks in Utah. The temperature had dropped to freezing, and she was soaking wet." End quote. Okay, let's unpack this, because when I'm reading something, I like to see it in my head. I like to play it out like I'm watching a movie. And this movie has a lot of plot holes, a lot of jump cuts where we're missing something. Because from what I'm understanding, BriAN says they are in Grand Teton National Park, where Gabby's remains would later be found. I would assume if they were like out there in the desert, they must have been out hiking, and then they started rushing back to the car before it got too dark and cold, which is understandable, right? Because you don't want to be out in the desert wilderness when it's dark and cold, obviously. But he also makes it seem like 1 minute they're just frolicking in the meadows and the mountains with the sun blazing down on them, and the next minute they were like, "Oh no, night is falling. Oh no, what's happening? It's dark all of a sudden, like an eclipse happened, a solar eclipse, and all of a sudden the sun's blacked out." BriAN says they were crossing Spread Creek before it got too dark to see and too cold. And then a second later, he says he heard a splash and a scream, and he could barely see her. He had to call her name and search for her because he couldn't see her, which means it was dark, right? So 1 second, they're rushing across the streams of Spread Creek before it gets too dark and too cold. And the next second, it is too dark to see her. And it's also suddenly freezing, okay? So I don't know. He's leaving stuff out, or it just doesn't make any sense. So
it's almost like this whole thing was put together as it went on, guys. As they went on this trip, there was a perfect thing, a perfect setup for him to say, "Oh, something happened to her." You see what I'm saying? It's almost like he wrote down everything that happened through this whole trip, or wherever else they may go, or even at home whenever he had Gabby's phone and wallet, that he was writing in this book, trying to make up stuff the whole time, because all this was planned. I mean, why do you take a book at the end of everything and just jot stuff down for her? You don't. He wrote in this book all the way through and just kept it. I mean, if Gabby would have found it, then yeah, there would have been some questions. Well, why did I fall for, something like that, guys? But I mean, other than that, he kept it from her. It sounds like he kept it from her. Either that, or it wasn't even written by him. One or another. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
I looked up this handy chart thing to show the hourly temperature in this area by month. And first of all, it looks like it doesn't ever really get freezing there in the month of August. This was August. We're assuming it's the end of August. If it was just getting dark, I'd also assume this happened around 8 p.m., 9 p.m., probably more 8 p.m. And the chart shows that temperatures would be comfortable or cool around this time, certainly not freezing. In fact, the sunset on August 31st happened around 7:59 in the evening, so it would have been pretty mild temperatures around this time in this area. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. BriAN continues saying, quote, "I carried her as far as I could down the stream towards the car, stumbling, exhausted, in shock when my knees buckled and I knew I couldn't safely carry her." End quote. Okay, once again, what the hell is going on? What is going on? From what BriAN says, Gabby simply fell in a stream and she was wet and cold, right? Why would he have to carry her? Because she was too cold to walk from being wet and from the freezing temperatures that didn't even exist. Was BriAN saying that he was stumbling, exhausted, and in shock? Why was he in shock? Because Gabby had fallen in a stream and gotten wet? Like, how far did he carry her? Or how long did he carry her? He doesn't say, considering we know that Gabby's remains would later be found in the Spread Creek dispersed camping area, which is where he claims they were, right around that area when she fell in the stream and got too wet and cold to walk. It doesn't make any sense. And he says he's going towards the car as if he knows where the car is. So in this sentence, he makes it seem like he knows where the car is and how to get there. But then he kind of later makes it seem like he had no idea where they were or where the car was. BriAN continues, writing, quote, I started a fire and spooned her as close to the heat. She was so thin, had already been freezing too long. I couldn't at the time realize that I should have started the fire first. I wanted her out of the cold back to the car. From where I started the fire, I had no idea how far the car might be. Only knew it was across the creek, end quote. Okay. Let's examine this. According to Gabby's father, Joe Petito, and her mother, Nicole Schmidt, Gabby's remains were found in an area of dispersed campgrounds on the borderline of Bridger Teton National Forest, about 40 feet away from where Grand Teton National Park begins. In order to get there, campers would have to cross over the creek bed that separates the campgrounds from the area where police found Gabby, and where Gabby and BriAN's white van had been seen parked. You know, pretty close to where Gabby's remains were found. Now, remember from our past coverage on this case, the white van that BriAN and Gabby had been driving across country was seen by a woman named Jessica Schultz by the Spread Creek area on August 26th, 2 days after Gabby had last spoken to her mother on FaceTime. Jessica called the police and reported that she'd been driving behind BriAN in the white van. He parked on the side of the road, and then Jessica said, quote, I'm pretty sure he got out of the van to look around or something. There was definitely nobody in the passenger seat, end quote. Jessica saw the same van, Gabby and BriAN's van, there again in the same spot the next morning, and she said that she found this strange because it wasn't a designated parking place. There was no other tents or other campers in the area. It was kind of just on the side of the road that BriAN had parked the van. Additionally, a family, Red, White, and Bethune, they were passing through the Spread Creek dispersed camping area, and they were taking a video of their journey because they do YouTube videos. And they also spotted the white van in their footage on August 27th, around 6 or 6:30 p.m. They had noticed that the van had Florida plates, and so they stopped to say hello because they were originally from Florida, but they said all the lights in the van were off, all the doors were closed up, and it didn't look as if anyone was inside the van. So according to Gabby's parents, the place where Gabby's body would later be found was, quote, not far from the van. It was a 5-minute walk, end quote. Joe Petito, who had gone to the area to lay down some stones and flowers in the shape of a cross to memorialize his daughter, he described the area saying, quote, so you have to cross over this creek bed, this rock area, and go through these tributaries. And once you get on the other side, it's just some trees sparsely placed throughout and a lot of sagebrush, a lot of low brush. It was an area where there were few trees and there was the remnants of a fire ring there. There was a clearing where I would assume, knowing I have a similar tent, where I would place my tent, and that opening would face out overlooking the mountain range, end quote. So let's go back to what BriAN said, that he couldn't carry Gabby any further, even though we have no idea how long or how far he did carry her. And I'm not sure why he was having a hard time carrying her, because he literally says in this notebook, she was so thin. And I mean, she was, right? She was. Gabby Petito, she couldn't have been more than 98 pounds soaking wet. But BriAN, he's having a hard time carrying her, and he's stumbling and in shock because she fell in the water. So BriAN stops, he builds a fire. And he makes me sick, honestly, with this next statement, saying he spooned her as close to the fire as he could. I don't know why, but that one sentence, almost more than anything else he says in this notebook, it makes me feel livid. And as Joe Petito said, there's evidence that a fire was built there, but the fire pit and Gabby's body were found just a 5-minute walk from where the van was parked. BriAN was supposed to be this keen and great outdoorsman, and he wants me to believe he didn't take mental stock of any of the landmarks they were passing as they initially hiked away from the van. You know, a landmark like a stream or a creek or a tributary or, you know, like where the camping area is. And he had no idea how far away they were from the van when he stopped and built this fire. He just knew it was across the creek, but he couldn't remember how long it had taken from when they left the van to when they reached the creek initially earlier that day. I mean, I personally try to avoid walking outside at all, but even I would have a memory of whether it was like a short or a long walk from the van to the creek where they were camped out by. So
just to where the van was parked, guys, just where the van was parked is weird. Like, it looked like it was backed up there just to stay there to unload some things to, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to eat dinner and be back. All right, Justice. I mean, it kind of seems like that the van was just backed up there. That's where it was left. And then not too far from there, a 5-minute walk, her body was found. Wow. Yes. Guys, this is weird. You know, I mean, there's so many cases like this, guys. And I know I keep saying that, but do we really think Brian Laundrie's actually dead? Do you really think Brian Laundrie killed himself? The more we hear about it, the more it doesn't make sense. Just like the other cases. And it's so easy. I've said this before too. It's so easy for us just to believe the first thing that comes along, guys. I mean, it's so easy for that to happen. And that's what they've done with the Kylie Rodney case for sure. But this one, I mean, cadaver dogs, trained, didn't find Brian Laundrie. Brian Laundrie didn't find him. When they're trained to actually find bones and everything else in water, wherever else it may be. Nothing. The park was closed. but it was reopened the next day, and that's whenever they found the stuff the next day. But the cadaver dogs searched a day prior to that and didn't find anything. And they searched right over where BriAN Laurdie's body was found the next day after the place was closed down. It's almost like something was planted, if you know what I mean. Anyways, guys, and these are all just speculations, guys. Rob, what is up, Rob? How are you? So, yeah. So the park was closed. The park was closed. So the manhunt went on. The park was closed the next day. Cadaver dogs went in, searched, done whatever else they needed to do. Not found anything, guys. And then the next day, BriAN Laurdie was supposedly quote unquote found. I'm not buying it, guys. Anyways, let's jump right back to the video.
What the hell? Like, I would know. Oh, here's the creek that Gabby allegedly fell in, and now I know it only took us like 5 minutes to walk from the van to the creek, so we have hope. There's time. We can get her to the van. But no, he just built a fire, and he's like, I should have built this fire earlier, but I just wanted to get her to the van. Yeah, no shit. You definitely want to get her to the van. It makes way more sense than building a fire, but he tries to act as if his idea of getting her to the van, as if his initial plan to get her to the van was stupid, and he should have just built a fire. BriAN continues on writing, quote, when I pulled Gabby out of the water, she couldn't tell me what hurt. She had a small bump on her forehead that eventually got larger. End quote. Okay, I'm going to stop here because this is super suspicious. I think it goes without saying that I don't believe a word of this. I don't believe anything that BriAN Laurdie says in this letter. I think if you do believe anything that BriAN Laurdie says in this notebook, you're probably the type of person who writes Chris Watts fan mail in, prison and tries to get him to like marry you and tries to have like a weird letter prison pen pal relationship with someone like Chris Watts or Ted Bundy. That's who you are if you believe anything that he says in this letter. But I do believe that BriAN is unwittingly telling us things. And this bump on the head that started out small but got larger, that says to me that Gabby probably did have a bump on her head. She probably had hit her head or gotten hit in the head, but it wasn't from falling in a stream. We know that Gabby died from manual strangulation, but we also know that before she was strangled, she had sustained blunt force trauma to her head and her neck. It is my opinion that before BriAN strangled Gabby, he hit her with something, possibly a rock or some other object. BriAN knew that this injury was going to show up on an autopsy, and so he mentions it here to explain it away, to give some explanation other than him being responsible for it. She fell in the creek and came out with a bump on her head. He continues writing, quote, her feet hurt, her wrist hurt, but she was freezing, shaking violently. While carrying her, she continually made sounds of pain. Laying next to her, she said little, lapsing between violent shakes, gasping in pain, begging for an end to her pain, end quote. Okay, so here we go. How in the hell did Gabby, from falling in a stream, get so badly injured that she could not walk, okay? That she was gasping in pain, violently shaking from her injuries and the cold, apparently, and being cradled by the body heat of BriAN, and the flames from the fire he had built did not do a thing to warm her up, to the point where she begs BriAN to end her pain, to put her out of her misery. She fell in a stream or a creek. He's not clear. He says different things. She fell in a little shallow body of water. To hear BriAN explain Gabby's injuries, you would think she'd been mauled by a bear and she was literally like bleeding out in front of him, or she'd like fallen down a mountain and was suffering from internal organ injuries. She slipped and fell in a stream, dude. Like, you've got to do better than this. We need a little bit more understanding of what possibly in this stream could have caused all of these injuries to the point where she's literally shaking violently from the pain and begging for him to end it for her. BriAN goes on to say, quote, she would fall asleep and I would shake her awake, fearing she shouldn't close her eyes if she had a concussion. She would wake in pain, start the whole painful cycle again, while furious that I was the one waking her, end quote. Here we go again. Here we go again. She's falling asleep, but he doesn't want her to sleep because she might have a concussion. And I mean, we all know that if you have a concussion and you go to sleep, you might not wake up again. And BriAN wants us to know that Gabby was pissed at him, furious, he says, when he woke her up, because he doesn't want her to die. Once again, he's telling us
the van was 5 minutes away. This is what doesn't make sense. The van's 5 minutes away. She fell in this stream that's like, it's a stream, guys. It's not like it's a lake. It's not like it's a creek or whatever you want to call it. She fell in a stream, supposedly, hurt herself on the head, shaking so bad, but the van's 5 minutes away. But it's dark because he says he can't see her. So therefore, it's dark at this time. But where they found the body of Gabby Petito was right basically there. So why didn't he just carry her back to the vehicle and take her to the hospital like any normal person would have done? Or called an ambulance like any normal person would have done to get her help? This doesn't make sense. And this is what the confession, the notebook the confession notebook actually says. It's all fabricated lies. Like I said in the beginning, he had to have actually wrote down stuff as he went through everything, through the whole trips, to make it look, well, somewhat true, or he just jotted stuff down because he ran out of stuff because they didn't go on enough trips. I mean, they already said there was 2 different places. He already said that sent fake text messages from Gabby, said it was from Gabby, when it was really him saying they was at a totally different spot anyways than what they was at. Totally different national forest. Anyways, guys, let's get back to the video.
Something without telling us something. And this is just my opinion, but it seemed like BriAN always thought he knew what was best for Gabby. He knew what was best for everyone, actually, what was best for humankind and the world. His social media posts were a collection of condescending, self-aggrandizing monologues about how much people suck, how they hurt themselves and the environment, and how BriAN knows the answer to living the right way. If only all of us idiots.
What did that say? Let's go back and see what did that say right there? Take a hike, everybody. Bug bites better than being brainwashed by media. Wow. All right, let's continue.
Of condescending, self-aggrandizing monologues about how much people suck, how they hurt themselves and the environment, and how BriAN knows the answer to living the right way. If only all of us idiots would listen to him, or just, disappear from the planet. Either one, because after all, according to BriAN, quote, humans are primates, great apes in fact, but I don't know how great we are as a species, end quote. And don't forget the gem he wrote after visiting Zion National Park, quote, Zion is proof that mankind can ruin anything, even in an effort to preserve it. Beautiful park, just with the unfortunate infestation of human beings, end quote. This is ironic to me that BriAN says this about humans being able to ruin everything, even in the attempt to preserve it. Isn't that kind of what you did to Gabby Petito, the love of your life, the most amazing woman on the planet? You loved her so much, you killed her, right? Because if you can't have her, no one can. In an attempt to show her how much you loved her, to preserve this love, you ended her life. That kind of love I could do without.
What did I say?
No one can. In an attempt.
My biggest fear is that one day I'll wake up and it will have been a dream, because that is what every second has felt like since the moment I found each other, till death do us part, or until I wake up. I'm so happy the answer was yes. Love you, honey. Wow.
To show her how much you loved her, to preserve this love, you ended her life. That kind of love I could do without. That kind of love is like, Lenny from Of Mice and Men. He loved all those little animals so much, he just squeezed them to death, BriAN. So it's ironic that BriAN looks at mankind and human beings in this way. And to me, I think it's a projection, because honestly, the person I think he's disgusted with is himself, not mankind as a whole. He sees himself and what's inside of him, and he projects that on every other human being. He thinks that because he feels a certain way and because he is toxic and deeply flawed and toxic to everything around him, he thinks everybody's like that because he's like that and he hates himself. That's just my opinion. So BriAN Laurdie is living on the high pedestal he's placed himself on, and it did seem that he was controlling in his relationship with Gabby, and he sort of forced his morals and his worldview on her. It also seems from time to time that Gabby would push back, that she would disagree, and she would voice her dissenting opinion, which would appear to someone like BriAN that she was getting mad at him, that she just didn't know what was good for her, which would have been frustrating for him. And he sort of illustrates this in his fictional tale of, the creek fall. Even in the last moments of her life, Gabby is getting mad and pushing back against him, even though BriAN was simply trying to keep her alive. He thinks she might have a concussion. He's trying to keep her awake so she doesn't, fall asleep and go into a coma. And she's furious about it. Like, how dare she? Now, you may ask, why didn't BriAN just cuddle Gabby up by the fire and run across the creek to quickly find the van and, get it closer to Gabby so he could get her some help, some medical help, more than a bonfire? Well, according to BriAN's letter, quote, she wouldn't let me cross the creek, thought like me that this fire would go out in her sleep and she would freeze, end quote. Okay, so now BriAN is fine with letting her fall asleep, If he goes off to find the van, he understands she might fall asleep. And the real concern in that scenario is that the fire is going to go out while she's sleeping and he's out getting help and she's going to freeze. He claims she won't let him leave. She's weak, shivering, in and out of sleep, shaking in pain, but she's very clear about one thing: BriAN isn't going anywhere, which led to what happened next, apparently. Something that BriAN makes it seem was his only option at this point. She was cold. She was injured. She wouldn't let him go get help. Who knows why he couldn't use his cell phone or Gabby's cell phone to call someone? Maybe they both left their cell phones in the van, although I don't know why you would go out hiking in the wilderness without at least one cell phone. But, details. Maybe there was no service, although I'm sure you could, walk around a little bit, get some service. Come on. It's like a camping area pretty close to you. So I'm sure there's some service somewhere. You could do something. You could at least do like the 911 emergency call thing, right? Like you could do that. But like I said, details. Who knows where their phones were? Who knows why he couldn't use his phone or her phone to call for help? So BriAN continues on writing, quote, I don't know the extent of Gabby's injuries, only that she was in extreme pain. I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, and that is what she wanted, but I see now all the mistakes I made. I panicked. I was in shock. But from the moment I decided, took away her pain, I knew I couldn't go on without her, end quote. Now, BriAN doesn't say that he thought it was merciful and he thought that's what she wanted. He says he thought it was merciful and it was what she wanted, making it seem as if there was some type of conversation between BriAN and Gabby where she was like, yeah, dude, there's no getting out of this. I would rather have you choke me to death than leave me here by the fire and go get help or try to find the van or, head over to the camping area where other people will be and get someone to call the police or use your cell phone to call the police. I feel that this is the only option for me now since my fall into a shallow body of water. Please take away my pain. I want to die by your hands. He doesn't specify what she said, right? But he does make it seem like this was her idea and she wasn't going to be happy with any other solution. Although he was willing to try other things. Okay. He wanted to go get help and he wanted to, do this and that and carry her. But no, this was the only option. Just moments before, BriAN was waking Gabby up every time she closed her eyes because he didn't want her to become unconscious. And she was getting mad at him about this. And suddenly he's like, yeah, you're alive. Yeah, I would like you to stay alive, but I'm just going to strangle you to death to take away your pain from the massive injuries you must have sustained in the 2-foot fall in the stream. And taking Gabby's life in this merciful way, it didn't just mean that Gabby was going to be gone. BriAN knew. He says he knew from the moment he made the decision to end her suffering that he was not going to be able to live without her, that he would have to follow her into death. But instead of taking his own life right there, besides the woman he loved more than anything in the world, so they could do, a whole romantic thing, BriAN was going to go home first. He's going to go home first, as he explains in his letter. He realizes, he kills her with his own hands. And he's like, I can't go on. I can't live in a world if she's not in it. But first, I got some stuff to do. He says, quote, I rushed home to spend any time I had left with my family. Okay, listen, I know I only read like one sentence, but I do have to pause again. What does he mean, any time he had left? He knew he was going to take his own life to be with Gabby because he couldn't live without her. That says to me that this was going to happen at a time and on a date of his choosing, right? He's making it seem like he's just got a stage 4 terminal cancer diagnosis and he could have 6 months or 6 days to live. He doesn't know. So he's going to spend it with his family. Such an odd way of wording that. But BriAN continues, writing, quote, I wanted to drive north and let James or TJ kill me, but I wouldn't want them to spend any time in jail over my mistake, though I'm sure they would have liked to, end quote. Okay, I'm going to step again because BriAN Laurdie is a dick, a self-serving dick. He says he was going to drive to Gabby's family and let them kill him, but he cared too much for them to allow them to go to prison for taking his life. But he made sure to let us know they probably would have been okay with that. They would have been okay with taking a human's life, even though he loved their daughter. And even though he didn't do anything to hurt her, actually, he took her pain away out of love, but they would still want to brutally kill him to the point where they would do it knowing they would go to prison. BriAN Laurdie is someone who takes a life out of kindness and mercy. Gabby's family are the kind of people who take the law into their own hands and will tear an innocent man limb from limb out of revenge and anger, even if it means going to prison. He wants us to know that about them. And he says something later in this letter that comes back to this as well, and I'll point it out when we get there. BriAN goes on to say, quote, I am ending my life not because of a fear of punishment, but rather because I can't stand to live another day without her, end quote. Bullshit. He definitely ended his life because he was afraid of the repercussions, and he definitely did it in this way, leaving behind this bullshit series of events so that it would plant doubt in our minds. And without him here to question, without him here to get the details that would certainly cause his story to fall apart even more, some people may always have that doubt, and they may be afraid to call him a murderer. But I don't have.
Guys, look, I'm not buying nothing of his stuff. I think BriAN Laurdie, like I said, wrote down all this stuff through his journeys, through their travels. I think this was planned for a while. That's the reason why BriAN Laurdie wouldn't let her go places and venture off. He was always there with her. That's how people like this start off, is an obsession with their wife or their girlfriend. And guys, it's okay to actually love your wife or your girlfriend, but there's a difference. If you're not letting them go out and even get a job, or you're showing up at their job, sitting outside watching them, thinking someone's going through their vehicle, then we have a problem at that point, right? This guy was that guy. And I think Gabby didn't know how to get out of this whole thing. That's what I believe. And the van was 5 minutes away. If she got hurt, don't you think he would have instead of, put together this whole fantasy story? He would have grabbed her and took her to the van and called the cops or the ambulance or whatever else it may be. Wow. Guys, I've read about this case. I've watched stuff about this case, but I'm learning new stuff about this case myself, guys. She says, obviously. Yeah, for real. Obviously. I mean, and then he goes on to say, well, I had to end her life because she was suffering. Suffering from what? Good God. People is sick in this world, guys. We have people sick in their heads. Anyways, guys, let's jump back to the video.
Of that doubt, I'm not afraid He's a murderer. Now, do I think that BriAN loved Gabby? Yes. Like I said, in his own weird and twisted way, he probably loved her. He probably thought that the urge to control and possess Gabby was love. He thought that wanting her all to himself was love. Do I think that he was sad after he killed her? Yes, I do. I don't think this was premeditated. I don't think he had a plan to get her out in the wilderness and kill her. I think this happened because they were arguing. People like BriAN, they usually don't like to be argued with. They don't like to be questioned. They don't like pushback. I think he got angry. Gabby may have said something that he didn't like. Gabby may have said, it's over. And in a moment of blind rage, he struck out, probably hitting her on the head with something. And then, realizing he had gone too far, he wrapped his hands around her neck to finish the job. We know that when BriAN drove from Wyoming back to Florida, he listened to a Spotify playlist titled Mountaintops. It was a playlist that he and Gabby shared and contributed to together. And he added a few songs to this playlist by an artist called Matt Berry, and he listened to these songs on repeat on his way back to Florida. One of the songs is titled Woman, and it goes like this, quote, your woman is your angel, is your left side, is your whole life, and easily the most beautiful thing in the world. She'll soothe you, she'll accuse you, she'll confuse you, she'll lose you, but always be the best friend you have in the world. Time and space, things in their place. I know it's more than a feeling, because my love, it has no ceiling for you. She's dangerous, she's courageous, contagious, she's ageless, and could be the last thing you see on this earth. End quote. It's a nice song. I like it. I actually had it on one of my playlists before this even happened, so it's kind of eerie and jarring when it comes on and I end up skipping it. But it does remind me of this generation's version of Billy Joel's She's Always a Woman, which is another song I like, another great song. You know, I love Billy Joel. No one loves Billy Joel more than me. But if you listen to the words of both of these songs, you can see that they're sort of describing a very toxic, codependent relationship. I think that Gabby had a lot of connections with friends and family and acquaintances, but for BriAN, there was only Gabby. And he would have forsaken all other relationships in his life to only have her. You know, if somebody came to him and said, you can have Gabby Petito forever, but you can't have any friends or family, he would have said, yeah, sign me up. As long as it ensures that I have her forever and she never leaves me, I will get rid of everyone and everything else, because he was obsessed with her. And that feeling can be very passionate, very intense. That's why he thought he loved her. And the fact that he was listening to this song after he killed her and as he was going back to Florida, and he listened to it over and over again, is evidence that, you know, he was upset she was gone and he was sort of wallowing in that despair. The song talks about a complicated woman. You know, she's an angel. She could also be confusing. She could be downright dangerous. She can make you feel good. She could make you feel bad, but none of it mattered because you loved her. You loved her with no limits and no boundaries. So even if she's crazy, she could be a crazy bitch and it doesn't matter. And Billy Joel's song, She's Always a Woman, is very much like that as well. I mean, I feel like in Billy Joel's song, I can't remember the lyrics off the top of my head without the song playing, but I literally feel like he says like his girl could physically abuse him, but it doesn't matter because she's always a woman to him. And this is just, you know, not a super healthy outlook on relationships. Like I said, codependent and toxic. BriAN's letter goes on to say, quote, I've lost our whole future together. Every moment we would have cherished. I'm sorry for everyone's loss. Please do not make life harder for my family. They lost a son and a daughter, the most wonderful girl in the world. Gabby, I'm sorry. I have killed myself by this creek in the hopes that animals may tear me apart, that it may make some of her family happy. Please pick up all of my things. Gabby hated people who litter. End quote. Okay, so the comment that he hopes animals may tear him apart because it will make some of Gabby's family happy, he's such a dick. Once again, BriAN's the good guy. He loved Gabby. He killed her because she was suffering. And now he's taking his own life because he wants to be with her. He can't be without her. But he understands that her family is still going to be upset about this. However illogical that is, you know, because they should understand that what he did was only what was best for Gabby. And they shouldn't have wanted their daughter to suffer in pain. But humans are just emotional parasites. So BriAN, he gets it. They're going to be mad at him about this. Not everyone can be as spiritually elevated as BriAN to the point where he's transcended all the petty emotions that humans feel. BriAN clearly feels that not only are the members of Gabby's family the type of people who would go to prison simply because they want to kill him out of revenge, but they're also the type of people who would get some joy from knowing that his body was torn apart by bloodthirsty wild animals. BriAN's the good one. Gabby's family are the violent, vengeful ones. And BriAN has asked us all to go easy on his parents because they've already lost so much. And this is fair. And I think it's actually kind of nice on BriAN's part. I think that this was probably the only genuine sentiment that BriAN expressed in this letter, because he was probably very regretful for the consequences of his actions rippling outwards and negatively affecting his family. I think that him saying like, go easy on my family, he had seen what had been going on at the laundry house. He knew that people were very suspicious of his parents, rightly so. We'll talk about that. But he was, I guess, trying to get people to ease up on them, which I don't know how this is going to do it, because honestly, he does say something earlier in the letter. I forget exactly what it was, but he says the first time he's like, be patient with my family or be nice to my family. This came as a shock to them too. So it almost sounds like they knew before he died what had happened. On June 27th, 2 days after the
They did know what happened. I mean, that's very clear. Why ain't these people in jail? Why ain't these people in prison? Why isn't BriAN Laundrie's mom and father in prison, or mom, or whoever else actually knew about this? Anyways, guys, and whenever this notebook of confession was found, the father is the one who found this notebook. And mind you, that park was closed one day. The day before that, they looked for BriAN Laundrie's remains. The park's closed. And then the next day they find BriAN Laundrie's quote unquote remains. I don't believe it, guys. Anyways, let's jump back to the video.
Contents of the notebook were made public, or at least 8 pages of the notebook. Gabby's mother, Nicole Schmidt, tweeted the words "fed up," along with a quote that said, "Narcissists rewrite history to escape accountability. You are not crazy." And on the Today Show, Nicole kind of elaborated and explained what she meant by this, saying, quote, "That was his character, even in his last..."
Guys, so you know how some people says that the woman actually dates a man that looks like, that resembles their father or what else? This guy does resemble BriAN Laundrie. And I've seen that on a lot of cases as well. Or the woman resembling the mother. I mean, that's true. This is actually very true when this stuff happens like this. So yeah. Anyways, guys, I thought I'd just point that out too. Anyways, let's go ahead and that's my opinion. I'll go ahead and jump back to the video.
Last moments. He wanted to make sure he looked like the good guy, right? That's ridiculous. We know how she died. End quote. One of the Petito family lawyers, Patrick Riley, he has also claimed that there were other things found amongst BriAN's possessions, including allegedly a letter from his mother, Roberta, which said "burn after reading" on the envelope, as well as a second confession located on a digital device, and a possible third confession in written form that the FBI claims are somewhat different than the series of events BriAN laid out in the notebook. And actually, this video has gone on longer than I expected, so I'm going to make a separate video to talk about the lawsuit against Chris and Roberta.
So why isn't these people in prison? Barbie says, "Sorry, my oldest son showed up." Why aren't these people in prison? If there's attorneys that actually have all this information, why aren't these people in prison?
Laundry, as well as these other objects that Patrick Riley is referring to, because there's a lot to go over there. It's very damning, actually. I personally can't say for sure that the Laundries know more than they say they know, or knew more than they said they knew, but I do have my suspicions. And there are a lot of things that happened throughout and in the aftermath of the investigation that just don't sit right. So we'll talk about all of that in the next video. To finish this video, I want to tell you what my theory is, what I think happened to Gabby Petito. A new witness has recently come forward, and this person has asked to be referred to only by their first name, which is Chandler. And Chandler claims that he was stopped at a red light outside of the Moonflower Co-op in Moab, Utah on August 12th, 2021. And he claims he saw BriAN and Gabby arguing outside of their white van, and he saw BriAN Laundrie swing on Gabby with a closed fist. Chandler said, quote, "It was kind of like a slapping motion, but with a closed fist. They were kind of yelling, and then BriAN swung at her. I believe it was his left hand," end quote. Chandler claims that when BriAN struck Gabby, it caused her to fall back against the van and hit her head. And there were 2 other witnesses that day, 2 other witnesses who were independent from each other, and they had witnessed the couple fighting, and they had seen BriAN hit Gabby. So, as we know, Moab police pulled BriAN and Gabby over up the road later that day, and they questioned them about what had happened. In the body cam footage, one police officer can be heard asking Gabby to turn her head so he can see the other side of her face.
How are you doing?
Good. Hey, we got a call about a male hitting a female and the 2 of them getting in this vehicle and taking off.
So I don't want to try and defend myself by saying anything here, but I pushed her away. She gets really worked up.
Hold on, I didn't play the part of the clip that I wanted to yet, but did I just hear BriAN say, "I don't have time to defend myself right now"? What? He gets pulled over by the police? The audacity to say, like, "I don't have the time to defend myself against these allegations that I'm physically abusing my girlfriend"? Oh my God, what a dick. It's almost like saying, "These accusations are so ridiculous, I'm not even going to acknowledge them. I'm far too busy to be held accountable or answer for my actions." All right, here's the clip that I wanted to show you.
So, what happened here and here?
I'm not sure. It was I was just trying to get in the back of the car, and his backpack got me back.
So, the backpack got you? So, there's 2 people that came to us and told us that they saw him hit you. There's 2 people saying that they saw him punch you. We're just independent witnesses by Moonflower.
Well, to be honest, I didn't hit him first.
Where'd you hit him?
I slapped him.
You slapped him first? And then just on his
I
face?
think that's cool. Just shut up.
How many times did you slap him?
Just a couple.
And then what, his reaction was to do what?
I don't know, but it just happened.
He just grabbed you?
Yeah.
Did he hit you though? I mean, it's okay if you're saying you hit him, and then I understand if he hit you, but we want to know the truth if he actually hit you.
I guess, yeah, but I hit him first.
Where did he hit you? Don't worry, just be
He
honest.
grabbed my face,
Every time I see footage from this police stop in Moab, I'm crushed for this girl. I'm crushed for Gabby Petito. Like, so sad about what happened. I see something in her that I recognize. I see something that I want to help and I want to save, and I can't. No one can. And it's very, tough to watch. So Gabby
Wow.
initially claims that she has injuries on her face because a backpack hit her in the face as she was trying to crawl back into the van because dickhead BriAN Laurdie had locked her out of the van, and he was also trying to get her cell phone from her. Now, when Derek and I covered this on Crime Weekly, I mentioned that, in a very big way, I understood Gabby's panic where she's trying to get back in the van, even if he was abusive, because some people were like, well, why would she be trying to get back in the van if he was abusive? Like, y'all need to not talk about things that you don't understand, because I understand this.
What's up, Sock Strong Creek Squad? How are you? Hey, BareBones. Hi, everyone. Hello, how are you?
I also understood that this was a power move on BriAN's part. They clearly argued about something, who knows what, and in the end, BriAN didn't get from the argument what he wanted, which was most likely to have her cower to him and to have her kowtow to him and, say, you're right, BriAN, about everything, and let's just go. So BriAN took her phone, and he got in her van, and he locked the doors, and he probably threatened to drive off. He may have even driven a little bit. Now, for a woman, this is a scary thing, to be left in a strange place with no phone, no wallet, no vehicle, not knowing if he's going to leave, where he's going to go, and when he might be coming back to get you. This is a different state than she lives in. He's got all her stuff that would allow her to get help or check into a hotel or call for help or do something or get food. He's got it all. BriAN doing this was to show Gabby that in the end, he was in charge and he was in control, and he was able to control how comfortable or uncomfortable she was, how safe or unsafe she was, how happy or unhappy she was. It's a common technique used by abusers where they withhold things as if to say, this is what your life would be like without me, because I'm taking all of these things with me. I provide you these things. I provide you this safety. I provide you this security and this happiness. And if I take it, you'll just be left on the side of the road with nothing. And I know this is what he was doing. I shouldn't say I know, but I know. In my heart, I know that this is what he was doing because it's been done to me.
And another tactic is this, guys. Not letting you get a job. That way you don't let him go, because of if you let him go, you have no way to make a life of yourself and make you believe that through years and years and years that without him, you're nothing. That's another tactic you use, guys. And for women too, making the man think that too in that same circumstance. So yes, controlling. Anyways, guys, let's jump back to the video.
Before. So why would Gabby want so badly to get into the van with her abuser? Well, because that was the devil she knew, right? It was the lesser of two evils at that point.
What's up,
I
Ellen?
think that BriAN had probably put his hands on Gabby before, so she was kind of used to it. She'd been explaining it. She'd been explaining it away to herself and to others for a while. And it was at least something she was familiar with, whereas, being left on the side of the road with no phone and no money and no way of getting help in a strange place, like basically in the middle of nowhere, that wasn't something she was very comfortable with. In my opinion, BriAN Laurdie did hit Gabby that day, and it wasn't the first day. It wasn't the first day he'd ever put his hands on her because she was already conditioned to protect him automatically. She already knew the script. From that fight in Moab on August 12th, Gabby and BriAN allegedly spent the night apart, her in a hotel, him in the van, and then for some reason, BriAN flew back to Florida on August 17th. He gives a reason, some storage unit nonsense, I don't believe it, but he left Gabby and the van at a hotel in Utah. He returned to Utah on August 23rd, and on August 24th, Gabby was seen checking out of the hotel. She last spoke to her mother, I believe it was August 24th, and it was a FaceTime or a phone call, so, Nicole Schmidt knew that Gabby was actually alive at this point. And Gabby allegedly sent her mother a text on August 30th claiming there was no service in Yosemite, and it's definitely believed that this text was not from Gabby at all. It was from BriAN, because Gabby was planning to go to Yosemite after the Grand Teton National Forest, but as we know, she never made it out of Wyoming. Now remember, there was that family traveling through the Spread Creek camping area, Red, White, and Bethune, and they saw the white van on August 27th. This was Jen Bethune and her family. They released the footage that they took of Gabby Petito's van, which showed what looked like a pair of flip-flops lying in the dirt next to the van, a pair of flip-flops or sandals that were identical to ones that Gabby Petito was seen wearing in pictures and on YouTube. And some people claim that in the video, just a second before the Bethune family passes the van, the door to the van can be seen sliding shut as if there's someone inside, and whoever was inside didn't want anyone from the outside looking in. Some people also believe that those flip-flops or sandals could have been BriAN Laurdie's sandals, because Gabby would get very annoyed with BriAN for coming into the van after she cleaned it with dirty feet. And this could mean that BriAN and Gabby were both alive inside the van at this point, and he'd politely left his dirty sandals outside. Or it could mean that BriAN and Gabby were already away from the van because BriAN was known to hike in barefoot, which is something Gabby would, laugh about, because people would always give him weird looks, which is why he did it, I think, because he wanted people to know he's not like other girls. He hikes barefoot. I believe that it was on this day, the 27th or the 28th of August, that Gabby Petito was killed. I feel that an argument started, possibly in the van. BriAN struck Gabby, he choked her, and when he realized she was dead, he waited for night to fall. He took her body about 1,000 feet out into the desert, just a 5-minute walk, and he placed her there. I think he then built a fire and maybe even camped in that area with her body overnight, trying to figure out what to do. In a sick way, maybe not wanting to leave her, not wanting to be in the van while he was trying to figure out what to do, in case someone stopped to check in on him again, like Red, White, and Bethune. BriAN maybe figured that this area, which was a bit more isolated and not someplace people camped, it would offer him the privacy to get his ducks in a row and spend one last night with the love of his life. And it gives me the creeps, because when BriAN talks about cradling Gabby and spooning her as close to the fire as possible, I think he actually did that, man. I think he actually did that, but not when she was alive. Not when she was alive and injured from a fall in a stream. I think he may have done that after she was already dead, or, maybe after he'd hit her in the head and, she was dying and then he choked her. I don't know, but it's just such a specific detail to just be so random. or completely made up. I feel like he did that. And I feel like he did spend the night there because remember, he's seen on the 27th and then he's seen again on the 28th with the van parked in the same spot. So what's up with that? So that's going to wrap up this video. In conclusion, I don't believe BriAN Laurdie. I think he was a self-serving asshole to the very end. I think he convinced himself that in a way what he had done was a mercy killing of some kind, and he had convinced himself that he was a good guy. He didn't convince me. Did he convince any of you? Let me know in the comments. But the big question we are going to address in the next video is going to focus on Chris and Roberta Laurdie, BriAN's parents, because the civil lawsuit alleges that they knew Gabby was dead as early as August 28th, which is crazy to me. And they kind of explain why they think this. So we're going to get into all of that next time. And thank you so much for being here. I'm not even really going to do.
All right, guys, look, I don't believe this whole thing is very weird. I mean, there's so much stuff that rolls back that BriAN's parents already knew about this stuff, especially BriAN's mom. Burn notes, a postcard saying, you know, if you go to prison, I'll bake you a cake and put a saw in it. What is she referring to? Why would he go to prison? There's so much stuff. And then they're the ones that actually found the confession notebook. What's up, Jackie? How are you? So yeah, they're the ones that actually found the notebook, the confession notebook. The van was 5-minute walk away from where Gabby Petito's body was actually found. But BriAN Laurdie made it sound like she fell in this stream, that she couldn't see, she hit her head, she's laying by the fire, like this Disneyland type story. And then all of a sudden he just wanted to end her life because she begged him to. That's what BriAN Laurdie's confession notebook actually said. I don't believe anything that actually this case says, guys. I believe that the parents actually knew about it. I believe that BriAN Laurdie may not be dead, guys. Look at the cadaver dogs. The cadaver dogs didn't smell anything. They searched the day before, and then the park was closed. And then the day after that, that's when they found BriAN Laurdie's supposedly unquote remains. Why didn't cadaver dogs and stuff smell it, find it that day they searched? It blows my mind, guys. I don't have, this case is just like all the other cases, guys. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring this video to you guys today, to show you guys that this case is just like the Kylie Rodney case. I mean, we have Michael, look at Michael Vaughn, a little boy that supposedly was buried in the backyard. We have doorbell camera footage of a girl running up to that door where no kids live at, talking to a grown man. It's disgusting, guys. We live in a disgusting world, guys. His dentist was his uncle, I think. Yeah, the video done before this actually explained that whole thing, and then this video was actually about confession notebook. So yeah, we practically covered the whole thing with these two videos, guys. Bullhorn Betty found Gabby's water bottle. Did she really? Okay, see, I didn't know that. I know that Molly Golightly was actually outside of BriAN Laurdie's mom and dad's house and told him that BriAN wasn't, she thought BriAN wasn't dead. So yeah. Wow. I'll have to look at that one. Thanks, Bella Gypsy, for that. Strong Greek Squad says, I feel he's still alive in another country. There's too much stuff that points to all this stuff be fabricated. I believe he's still alive too, guys. I believe he's still alive. That's just my belief. Like I said, that's my belief. And everything I said about the parents, everything else is speculations. That's my belief, guys. But everything points to, why ain't the parents in jail? In prison? When the mom wrote that postcard to BriAN Laurdie, it said, if you go to prison, I will bake a cake for you and put a saw in it. Meaning she already knew that he may go to prison. Blows my mind, guys. Anyways, guys, I'm going to jump off of here, guys. My family's on the way home. My daughter's sick, guys. She's running a 100-degree fever, so I'm going to get off here. Tonight, I will be back on tonight at 10 p.m. Central Time. If all things are well with my daughter, guys, we'll actually go on with another one. I'm not sure what we'll go on with yet, but I will get there, guys. What is up, Jack? How it going? Never got a. That's what people are saying. Never got notifications. People's unsubscribing too, or they say YouTube is unsubscribing them guys too. So yeah. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna jump off here. We've been on here 2 hours and 28 minutes. I'm gonna jump off here, guys. And if you guys get a video in the first of it and it doesn't show, if it doesn't play anything, guys, and you click on it, let it play for a little bit because it will end up playing, guys. It's just when I go live, sometimes I'm doing other stuff. So we gather people in here while we wait, guys. Scuba Sam, Ellen says, "Oh, get well soon." Thank you. I appreciate that, Ellen. They said Dad was making a burn. Yeah, and he was. They told him burn all letters. So yeah. Even since they handed the card for their lawyer out the door, I knew was call my attorney. The cops didn't even tell you what they're there for. You're already saying call my attorney. We're talking about BriAN Laundrie's mom and dad said handed the cops a card when they didn't even know what was going on yet. Or the BriAN Laundrie's handed the cops a card, said call my attorney. Anyways, double check your likes and double check your likes. Yes. Have a good day. Hope I do too, guys. I just got a call earlier saying that she was running 100-degree fever. So I'm the one she comes to when she's sick, guys. Another time. I may have to put on some bedazzling glasses with her and chase dinosaurs. Who knows? Anyways, all right, guys. I'm out of here, guys. I will let you guys know tonight. I'll try to post a community post to let you guys know I haven't come on. If not, it'll just be a surprise. I'm not sure what we'll do if I am on tonight at 10. But if I'm not on tonight at 10, I will be back tomorrow for you guys as well. Unless she's home with me again, then I'll have to work my way around that too, guys. You know how that goes. Being a dad goes. And a mom goes. I go to my dad's. Ellen, yeah. Anyways, guys, but first, love yourself, like yourself, be nothing but yourself. Like, subscribe, channel is highly appreciated. Guys, your boy Deuces. I'm out. Thank you, guys.